What's going on, brothers and sisters? Welcome to the Mucus-free Life podcast. I am Professor Spira here, and boy, I got a great show for you today. Any of you that's halfway interested in the practice of the Mucusless Diet Healing System, we have a guest that's going to be on the program. He's practiced the Mucusless Diet for over 30 years, raised a family on the Mucusless Diet, and has just a wealth of wisdom and knowledge, experiences related to the practice of the Mucusless Diet Healing System, as well as Egyptian yoga, mucus-free food prep, and a number of other things. So we're going to be talking to Brother Khaleeq here very shortly. And as always, first, I want to thank you all for tuning in. 2024, as Brother Air says, is a brand new number. Whole new number, and this strange 12-month system that they created a few years ago, and this very strange circumstances that we're under. It's 12, like it would 13. The 13 months would make a little bit more sense, probably. I know that they didn't start out with 12 months. It's all messed up, but we're here. And as long as we're breathing, as long as we're cleaning ourselves out, do them lemon juice, distilled water enemas, get the nice mucoid plaque out of your system. Keep on flushing the nasty stuff. Try to avoid eating foods that leave behind toxic waste and all this nasty gunk and all this stuff that give you the brain fog, that give you the fatigue, that causes you to be bloated and gives you the headaches all the time. And all of these things that people want to blame everything else for. Oh, you need get a B12 shot. You need your B12, or you're not getting enough vitamin D, vitamin C, and you need more protein. It's what about the 32 feet of impacted intestines and 15 to 20 pounds of uneliminated toxic, smelly fecal matter that's in your gut? Maybe, just maybe, that has something to do with why you don't feel like you should feel. We should feel good. We should feel good in our body to the point where we don't fantasize about leaving our body. People fantasize about their out-of-body experiences and going toward the light and all this kind of stuff, go be around a bunch of the white bearded men in the sky and this sort of thing, as opposed to what about just being grounded right in our body and really enjoying being in your body? You don't think like that. You don't constantly think about this desire to leave your body when you feel good in your body, when you feel grounded and free of obstruction, free of waste. And I can say that I remember what it was like to not feel like that, and it's not to say that we just feel great all the time, but there's a certain groundedness that you can achieve after you've cleaned yourself out for a while. But I remember before I went on this path, I would have anxiety that I'd be smoking cigarettes. And you think about these kind of cycles, because most people, they have taught themselves how to feel good based on stimulation. They can't feel good without their morning coffee, without their hourly cigarette, or their weed, or their whatever it is, name it, without their afternoon delight, whatever it is, their alcohol. Put that stimulant in there. The question, can you feel that? Can you feel good without stimulation? Because now you don't have to take some poison to alter your consciousness just to feel at ease, just to feel grounded, to feel like everything's going to be okay. No anxiety, no worrying about everything, just being grounded. And that's in calm, learning how to be calm. That's just what to me is great benefit of going down this path, practicing the Mucusless Diet Healing System. And I hope that you are all feeling good, that you're all getting all the waste out of your system that you are able to. And that's the name of the game. We have something that's very valuable here in terms of practice of the Mucusless Diet Healing System, and just a monumental opportunity to transform yourself, your bloodline, and humanity as a whole. I appreciate all of you. What's going on, Reese? What's going on, Brady? What's going on, Aline? Welcome, everybody. Andrea, how you doing? What's going on? And Deborah, how you doing? 7 packs of apples, getting it in. V equals P minus O is what it's all about. So let's get into it. I'm going to introduce you to Khaleeq. Asher Shakir, founder of Back to Life Healing Foods and Movement in Cincinnati, Ohio, Cincinnati native and certified Egyptian yoga instructor, passionate about holistic health, the environment, as well as positive, uplifting music. Everybody give it up to brother Khaleeq. What is going on?
What's up, man? Greetings to everybody. I'm excited. This is a long time in the making.
Long time in the making, man. A lot of history right here. And we're going to get into all of it. And so just to start it off, introduce yourself to everybody, who you are, where you coming from. And and just and how you can go ahead and say, how'd you live before practicing the Mucusless diet? And then how did you learn about the Mucusless diet? And then what kind of changes did you go through?
Okay, we might as well go full circle.
Jump right on in.
Born in Cincinnati, AKA the Nasty Natty. I had lived a pretty normal childhood, played baseball, football, ate everything that everybody else ate at that time. I was born in 1969, so in the 70s and 80s and everything. It was a little different than you youngsters growing up now, because I didn't eat a lot of fast food, except maybe on the weekends or occasionally, but we ate the hamburgers. What we ate was bad enough. Turkey at Thanksgiving, the whole nine. How I got exposed to, it's strange how I came into the whole livity. There was just some things that just were going on in my life, and I was naturally gravitating, moving in that direction. And then abruptly in 1994, I'd already became like plant-based, whatever you want to call it, vegan, vegetarian, and was naturally doing a lot of things, fasting and everything, without even having read the book. And my younger brother was 2 years younger than me, passed away from failed kidneys and high blood pressure and stuff. And he was only 22 years old. Both of us, both he and I, both had children on the way. And he didn't physically get to see his daughter be born. Actually, he transitioned a few months before she was born. But that really drove things home for me, that it was time to make some serious changes, because we were brothers. And I figured I ate what he ate, at least up until maybe the last couple of years before he transitioned. So if he didn't get a chance to get it together, I figured I better, and especially for our children's sake.
Yeah.
That was how I got into the whole idea of healthier living. Fast forward just about a year, everything moved so fast during that time of my life. I met a brother named Jerry Higgins, and he told me about the Mucusless diet. I immediately went to Clifton Natural Foods, bought the book when they were like $3 or $3.95 or something.
Yeah.
And picked up a copy. And this was long before an annotated version, you all. I'm talking about a little book like this big. And
it was about what, like 90, was that 92 or when was that?
Yeah, about 92, 93. Yeah, when I first got a copy of it. I don't know. When I first got a copy of the book was probably like 94.
Okay.
After my brother transitioned. But so I was really excited about it, man. I immediately dug in and started implementing things as best as I could without having any like guidance. And so you do things on your own. Then I run into Jerry Higgins like some months later, and he was totally not even on it anymore, man. He was like, oh, you got to be careful with that stuff. And he was back to eating chicken. And it's odd to me,
right?
Because he was so passionate when he was telling me. But he had told me about Vic Buttram and everything, who I didn't actually meet for a few more subsequent years after that. It took a while. I was on my own for the first few years, man, just doing what I knew to do, from reading the book and a lot of experimentation, man, while raising a new family. That was my beginnings with the Mucusless Diet Healing System.
Yeah. And so what was that early practice like? When from just reading the book, and also set it up a little bit where you're bringing the diet home. That's always a topic Brother Air likes to talk about, the phenomenon of somebody bringing the Mucusless diet home to an existing family, an existing spouse, potentially existing children. So talk a little bit about those days and how that went down.
That's really interesting because that was an intense period, man. While my wife was still pregnant and my brother transitioned, and I'm like, hey, we're not eating meat. We're not doing it. I wasn't eating meat then anyway, but I was like, the children are going to be not grow up without meat and dairy too. And that was a fight because she hadn't really thought about doing all of these things for herself so much yet. And certainly not the idea of raising children. She was uncertain of what was healthy for a child. We were raised in America, man. We didn't know anything. Yeah. That's actually when we came back in Zany and her mother that was like but yeah, man. It was intense because it was such a new territory. At the same time, I just had a fire in my eyes. I was excited, still not knowing what to expect, forging ahead anyway.
I mean, so when you read the book, what was that experience like? The first time you ever read the book, like how did it make you feel? Like and what were you thinking about?
It was very profound, man. V equals P minus O was one of the most profound things to this date that I've ever really read, but I was brand new. So like most people, you try to push things to the edge. Yeah, okay, applesauce. And I cringed because I saw in the comments where Deborah said she got 10 bags of grapefruits. Because that was me in the early years, man. I would fast all day. I would eat like big, huge grapefruit. And then I would eat like some salad and kale greens. I did that for months at a time. And it was cool. But when certain things started to arise, it makes you go back and keep on rereading the book to make those adjustments because certain things were off the list by then. I knew I wasn't going back to meat. I knew I didn't want to like eat mac and cheese, vegan mac and cheese and all that stuff. So I had to slow things down to more gradual transition.
And were there anybody that around that you that you had as a reference point as far as that maybe didn't practice the Mucusless diet, but that was vegan or vegetarian or some kind of health conscious?
Luckily for me and my family, we met Sister Tikol and another sister, Ola Remy, and they told me more about Vic. And so eventually I finally got his phone number and I called him up. And the first time I called him, it was a real short conversation. And I'm like, man, I've been waiting to talk to this guy. And he got off the phone. He called me back a little bit later and he said, man, I apologize. He said, man, I just ate and I was out of it. By the time he finally would sit down to eat after fasting and stuff, it was just like the vegetables would make him sleepy for a little while. So after the vegetables wore off, he'd call me back. And and we would talk for hours and hours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And for people that don't know, we have Victor Buttram. He is the person that introduced a bunch of people to the Mucusless Diet Healing System, Brother Air and a whole host of other people, and just a brilliant mind. But one of these days we're going to have that summit we always talked about where you had a round table and talk about Vic. But the hours long discussions with Vic was just priceless piece. So when did you start doing those? Would you say what time, how many years in, or was it right after you started talking to him, you was pretty much just plugged in?
Oh yeah, I was definitely plugged in then. I would try and call him every day. And one thing I didn't mention yet, but the enemas and everything, I started from right at the very onset. Some people were hesitant to do that, but when it made sense to me, especially after talking to Vic and Sister Tikol, and I was like, yeah, this is something I need to make sure I do these because I knew where I was coming from, man. And I don't have the most negative viewpoint about that. Some people, they over-focus, I think, on the filthiness to where it makes them have a complex.
Yeah,
it was realistic.
Yeah, that's been something that I've noticed over the years is, there's some people that it was almost like a generational thing, it seemed like, because there was a certain generation where you almost had to talk about the diet softer because people's self-esteem was just like, there was like self-esteem situations where that was something that I definitely didn't see with the older generations when it came, where it was more of, for lack of like I talk about sometimes like Brother Air, it's like the David Goggins of the Mucusless Diet, where it's just that type of that intensity, and it's not about hurt feelings. It's just it's about progression and pushing forward and being honest and serious about things. But yeah, some people can't handle that without, they start to feel real insecure and start and down on themselves. And that's why I started making all those videos. Don't be hard on yourself and like all that, because I was noticing that people were just really, because if we would talk about, use that type of language, like, man, I'm filthy. Damn, man, I'm so filthy there. But with us, like there's unconditional self-love. So we're projecting that, like us saying that about ourselves, then they're like, they're saying that about themselves. What am I? And then they start having these negative inner talk for themselves. And then it's all bad. Then they're like, okay, I'm going to do 5 enemas a day and I'm going to do this and I'm going to fast. And it's like, no one told you to do that. We said transition. We said just be consistent. And so that's interesting. So where so were you coming out of that era of not so soft?
Yeah.
Whatever's going on today.
And I should mention the reason I brought up, and I got off the subject about the grapefruits, is that sometimes, man, I would be so stirred up. And that's why I would say, if you're going to embark on a juice fast, it looks like they're going to embark on a juice challenge or something. Try not to overdo the citrus, or slow it down if you need to with some apples and something else. And because it can get pretty intense pretty quick, you know.
Yeah, have the utmost respect for the fruit and the juice. I don't always see that. Sometimes people, they don't really have a lot of respect for how powerful these tools are. They're like, oh yeah, that's juice. I can do that. And this is powerful. This is some powerful stuff.
Yeah, and in addition to that, it can really stir up the appetite too. And I think that's the thing that people really are ready for. Mm-hmm. Now you got a craving or something that you might or might not be able to handle. Take it easy.
So tell me about, when did you meet Brother Air, and how did that go down, and how did y'all start plugging in?
I met Brother Air just a few years after me, Big Butch. I'd heard about him from the onset too. And we just never, I saw him in the store one day and we finally talked for a little bit. And he said, call me. And then after that, we were tight. We talked all the time. As a matter of fact, I saw him when he was like towards the end of his year on fruit. And because I had seen him before that, but in the bookstore where Jerry Higgins had a bookstore called Word Up Books, but we didn't talk. I just saw him in passing. I heard that was Willie and his Brother Air. And so when I saw him, man, he lost a lot of weight. And he was telling me about the fruit and how impactful experience that was. So I was like, wow. And I knew I wasn't ready to do it because he had been into it a lot longer than me. But,
you're talking about when he had did the year on fruit. Yeah.
It wasn't one of those things that made me try to do a year on fruit. I just wasn't like that, man. But yeah, man, that's that picture there. That's at Eden Park, good old Eden Park.
Yeah, that was the Eden Park days.
Yeah, it looks like I just got off work. That looks like I was doing some like admin type work, but they buy us some shirts and stuff. But yeah, I came to the park after getting off, man, and just would plug back into our world after checking out a bizarro world.
Oh, who's in the pic? So I thought that was what we were talking about. That's Brother Air on the right, and that's Brother Khaleeq on the left. And this was like circa probably what looks like 2003 or 4 or something.
Yeah. And that was the Brother Khaleeq who jogged every day. I was still jogging. And yeah, usually right around that lake right there we're sitting at. It's a little man-made lake.
Yeah, the Eden. And we'll get to this as a day in Eden. I got that video. We'll take a look at that in a minute. But so talk a little bit about the raising your children on the Mucusless diet. As you brought the Mucusless diet home to a family that wasn't necessarily practicing the Mucusless diet yet. and then you started having children. So talk a little bit about that experience.
Okay, just so we're clear. Yeah, I brought it home to a family, which was my wife and very young children. They were still babies. And so it wasn't such a big deal for them because they weren't even really, barely eating solid food. And so they were just eating fruit and stuff anyway. But it was how do I say this without saying militant? It was a militant kind of time, man, because my parents and everything, I already knew what my family was doing on Thanksgiving and all of these things. So I just was like, we're not going. We're not going around that so that the children don't even get influenced. And at that time, I didn't really have any other tools to navigate that realm other than avoidance. So that's how the early years went.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the practice at home, it made sense. There were things that came slowly. My wife loves to tell the story about enemas in our family as far as the children. Our oldest son, he had a really bad fever and nothing would break it. We were like, either we're going to have to take him to the hospital or you're going to let me try an enema. You know what I mean? So it was just a really bad fever and it went on for a little bit of time. And we didn't want to give him any medicine or anything. That really would have been not the hospital. It would have been.
Right.
But anyway, she agreed and he immediately pepped up like within 30 minutes. And she was a big believer after that. And as you recall, anybody out there listening, the Sister Mawusi on the old wave radio clips that have been put up on YouTube, that was her a day before our daughter was born, talking about doing it while pregnant.
Yep. That was deep. We had a lot of deep times back then. So this was these are the kids right here. The kids as I remember them, when I met them.
Yeah, as I remember, they're all grown now. Man. All of them are grown now. All of them are out of the house, and it's hard to believe.
Yeah,
I moved to 7 right there.
Yeah.
That was
what are those the kids eat?
Yeah, we can't play it because I think that I
think there's an echo. That's what I saw. Yeah,
man. But my son was talking about how disgusting chicken. He said we don't eat chicken butts.
Yeah. Brother Aaron asked him, "What do you think of other kids' diets?" And they were just like, "I think they eat like chicken butts and stuff." And that was something to see. Just the whole family, and it was like Brother Air, his family with Anif and your family. And I'm coming into that and just seeing this. And I'm like, it's just such a total different energy in terms of the way everybody's thinking, the way the energy just feels is like this total different. And you all can look up this interview or this discussion, this Children of the Sun interview. Mucusless youth discuss their lifestyle. This was posted up 11 years ago on here.
Yeah, and everything they said was truthful, man, about what they ate. And because my oldest daughter there with the red coat on, she said pretty much what they had eaten that day. And it was just a whole different kind of culture, man. They would volunteer because the birthdays in our house and even in Brother Ayers was like, some exceptions were made for like birthdays, just lean things. And so they would just drink juice for 3 days before. And then when they came off, then they were like, okay, now it's my birthday. And that wasn't something that was forced on them or anything. They were cool with doing it. Baby Babaji back then, he was the one that was influencing them. And they were like, yeah, that's cool. I can do that. Because him and our oldest daughter are the same age. He's just a few months older than her. For those who don't know, we were in a old food chain. I don't know if Biggs is around anywhere or not, but anymore. But for things,
I think this was at this particular clip was at that Kroger's, the old Kroger's in what's it called over there by the university.
Oh, okay.
Before this was early in the day, because we went from the Kroger's, we got kicked out of there. Because I was filming every place. And when you look this video up, it's just funny because every place we go, people were coming up to us, just like, you can't be in here, you can't film. So we got kicked out and went to the mall and that's next. And then we get kicked out of there. Then we go to Biggs, and we like learn how to hide the video camera at Biggs so we don't get kicked out. And
oh yeah, that's right. We were at the mall and everything.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah, the mall. That's right. Yeah, right now the guy comes up, he kicks us out. So now we're in the mall, and the expression on your children's faces is epic because they've never eaten in a mall before. They're not excited about being here. Most kids are excited about the mall. Ooh, I'm going to the mall. They're just like, why'd you bring us here? We don't belong here.
But I do have to mention with that so that people don't feel sorry for our children, you think they were deprived or anything. Our children were very creative. And our oldest daughter right there with the red, she went on to write plays as a teenager. She recorded several albums, poetry. Our other daughter did poetry. They were all did different things. Our sons are drummers, and it was really a creative time. And I know that the whole diet had a lot to do with the creativity.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. And just the spirit. And that's the thing that seems to really get lost these days, is just the idea of somebody possessing an interesting in your spirit. Just the people don't talk about that. Everybody wants to, it's all about, let me get my Bugatti. What Cat Williams have to say and all this.
Right.
But what about just building one's character and developing oneself and having a spirit, which of course we take it a little deeper. We understand the root of the word spirit, breath, and clean up your breath. You're going to cultivate your spirit. No one's talking about that except us that I know of.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I agree with that totally. And like I said, there was a lot of creativity there. And the moment, I do have to say this, the moment that my first daughter was still in my wife's stomach, it wasn't about me anymore. That's something you mentioned in a recent video about doing it for unselfish reasons. Mm-hmm. And I was totally submerged in that. I know that Brother Era was too. It wasn't even about me anymore. Of course, it was me practicing, but it was about, I definitely wanted them to have a better chance than how I had grown up and than most of their peers would have in their life. Because if I was a fraction of a fraction, then so are they. And with that further division of a whole, then I was like, we got work to do.
Yeah. Plastic.
That's them up in the
Yep, that's them right there. The children of the sun. The children of the sun.
It looks like Deborah asked, are they all mucusless still today? The thing of it is they were on a transition diet. And we have to be clear about that. And don't worry, we don't ever get tired of saying it. But it's always a transition diet. So they had periods of mucusless and they still do. Maybe not as many as when I was preparing all their food and their mother, but they all eat fruit in the morning. They all still do enemas. So they all are still practicing the system to whatever extent that is comfortable for them with their lives and everything they got going on now.
Yeah. It's what were some of maybe talk about the teenage years of the, I guess the batches, all the different ages, but what was that transition like in those years, the teenage years where they might be starting to try to break away? Well, or did they? Was there like a desire to break away and have their own identity?
There really wasn't a desire to break away so much as there was a desire to like naturally find mates and stuff, you know what I mean? You start thinking in that direction as a teenager. And with that, I think honestly think that they started to question, we're never going to find anybody as strict as this. So then they start probably saying to themselves, where can I compromise without compromising too much? You know what I mean? And I think that would be the best way to explain that. Mm-hmm. And I get it, you know what I mean? Because living in this country, unless we weren't at a stage of development yet, really it being realistic to have a community where everybody would be able to find mates within the community.
Within the community, right. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. The transition is all over. It's just all the way the transition works and functions on all the different levels. And
so to get back to your question, maybe I could answer it a little better. is that, yeah, the transition fluctuated at different times. And that was one of them where it may not have been quite as strict because these were young men that were coming that were ready to get married stuff. So in their late teens, early 20s. So it was like trying to find things for them to bridge the gap. And
Because you got married at a young age, right?
I was like
pretty
22, 23. Okay. Yeah, maybe 23. Yeah. And my wife she just about to turn 21. We're 2 years apart. So yeah, they expected that. It seemed they were all younger than me. It went back to like my mother's era.
Yeah. What's your opinion on all that now? Not necessarily them, but just in general, young people, marriage and the diet or just relationships?
Well, I was never pushing it because I know how hard it is to live this lifestyle. And I wanted them more so than anything to just keep staying rooted in it. And they're doing good. I'm proud of them. They are. And they all love. Their favorite thing in the world is huge salads and fruit in the morning. And they still do enemas, maybe not as many when I was like the general standing over them. They all do them still. But yeah, man, that was an intense period for me. Oh, okay. Deborah says, how much water did you use for your child? Again, it depends on what age you're talking about. When they're little, just a little bulb syringe, maybe a little Khaleeq bottle. And we pour out the saline stuff. You put water in there, warm water in there, and then just a little bit of lemon juice. And then as they got older, they all had their own bags. We had bags all over the bathroom.
Yeah. That's epic. Some historic, like just the enema bag home when you go into a home and it's all the bag, the cleansing space. This was a historic day here. A day in the evening with the children and the son. And
yeah, man, it really ended up being an epic day. I don't know if you had all of this planned this way, but how it turned out, man, was like, wow, you got some really great footage. And this was right after your recital, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A couple of days after.
Yeah. It was soon.
I think it was like a week after or something.
It was like April 15th,
I think.
Yeah.
I think your recital was like the 6th or something.
Yeah. It was like pretty soon after. So this was the celebration, the post concert celebration, family.
And what was weird about it was like unspoken. Everybody was fasting.
Yeah.
And nobody really knew that until, I don't know who brought it up. And it's like, oh, well, everybody was fasting. As a matter of fact, that was like at the beginning of, ended up being like a 60-day fast for me, like a 2-month fast. And,
yeah. I remember you going through some pretty good elimination.
Yeah. Oh, really? Was that? That was early.
Yeah. I remember.
I think I was still feeling pretty good then.
Yeah. There was something, I don't know. I don't think this wasn't like a long term thing, but I remember you going through something that you were talking about. Cause I think it's even in the video or on camera. You were talking about going through something, which we do all the time. That's part of the practice of the Mucusless diet. When you go,
right,
these things come, you're bringing out generations worth of latent illness and disease that you clean yourself out a little bit, bring it forth, remove that, bring forth the next thing. So you just get deeper and deeper. And that's just a thing people don't understand, about this practice. When you try to explain it and they don't really get it. But when you try to put it in the perspective of the generational waste and decay and degeneration that we're trying to turn around with the practice of the Mucusless Diet Healing System in a systematic way over a long period of time, it's just different than everything else that's out here that people get into. But
yeah, man, for me, fasting has always been, having a large family has always been interesting for me because financially, everything else had to keep going. Sometimes my fast would be more intense because I wouldn't drink a lot because I'd be on a budget. I was a stickler about a budget all when my children were growing up because I had to make sure I got a case of lettuce and a sack of cabbage and a case of lemons and a case of oranges. And sometimes I would just squeeze orange juice and just drink small amounts of it and just keep going, man, which was another way to do it. It just didn't extend my fast as maybe as long as several months. What I did in maybe 2 months, if I drank a lot of juice, might have been comparable to 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Because it was so frugal.
Yeah. Yeah. This is.
I'm looking at my wife there. She looked like one of the kids, man. She was a mother of 5 at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. The memories. I contemplate. I practice contemplation a lot. So I go back and I think through different eras and experiences and periods and stuff a lot. And so, I revisit this era sometimes. And it's very.
What came before even this, I think you may have a clip of that somewhere, was the roundtable discussion, man. Because we stuff there. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to play it, man, you can mute me so that it doesn't echo.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we can play this. Yeah, this clip here. See if this will work. So you guys let me know if there's still a echo, and I'll have to reshare this really quick. Turn on the audio. No, I'm not sharing it yet.
Well, the people that I employ, it's just for me. That's the me. Being if I stay consistent, then I don't have to talk or argue or try to battle or to say, no, I'm not somewhere like that. For instance, when you was talking the open line, it was in the room. It's like, yeah, man, I'm going to just share. Now, I mean, at that point, you ain't responsible for him, but I would tell him, you'll kill yourself. I told him, you know what I'm saying? Get the book and read the book. All you can do is give somebody a book or tell them to get the book and start reading and studying. That's what he went off to his side. I said my little feet, you know, we hadn't done it. He wasn't done the work. He wasn't done the work. Started doing that. He called me up. You know, he called me 4 times a day. Hey, man, what do I do with this, man? I mean, a little one-liner. Hey, I'm right in the middle of where do I put that? That's why I get my man. Okay, all right. All right, Clay. I'm here to walk. Yeah, I got my but my ear. Call them minimally like, hey, man, I'm doing this. What's this for? That was it. But he went done the work. Still doing the work like we all are doing the work. All you can do it. Here's the book. Get into it. I just don't feel like we have to try to go play the world because
Yeah.
Man. That's a lot just right there for discussion. Because the Mucusless Diet Healing System makes you philosophical in the practice of it. And makes you really think about a lot of social conditions. And so people can see, I know you say it time and time again now, you can see how long this has been going on. We've been having
the same discussions. Yep. This was 2003. This happened November 2003. And I'm actually sitting next to Khaleeq off camera. You can't see me in that shot, but these were those old famous roundtable discussions that we used to have over at Brother Air's house.
Yeah, man. That was in having to talk people down off the ledge, man. He just casually mentioned that he had been doing fruit. And the guy he was talking to was somebody who he didn't even eat that strict of a diet and anything, smoke weed all the time and stuff. It was like, no, man, that's not, you can be inspired without trying to do exactly, clean yourself up and then try and do this. Years down the road. That's the path.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things where, at that time because I met Brother Air right after he had did the year on fruit. So I didn't see that, but I can imagine that anybody that saw it, then you have those handful of people that want to try to do it. It's like, oh, he's eating. Okay, I can do that. And then it's like, don't read the book and do transition. It's hard.
Like when I first saw him in the store, man, it may have been at the end of like his peanut butter and jelly time because he was a lot bigger and everything. And so when I saw him, I was like, wow. And he had this place on his face. When I saw him after a year on fruit, I was like, let's go. Yeah. And I mentioned it to him. He's, oh yeah, man, that's one of the things that happened. Or either that or it shrank a lot. It was either during that time or the 100-day fast.
How did you say that? He actually might have been on all fruit when I first met him before I really talked to him, because I really knew him for about a year before we talked about the Mucusless diet, just seeing him at the jam session. Because I remember that was when I first met him. He had that big welt on his throat, and I just always thought to myself, just it's weird, just looking at it. And but then once we talked about the Mucusless diet, and then I started getting into it, then I noticed, it's going away. And I was like, oh, okay, now I see what that was about. But yeah, I just distinctly remember that when I met him, seeing that.
So how can you argue with a person who sees something like that happen with their own body? It's empirical evidence, man. I was just thinking today about the internet. Man, it's the greatest thing and the biggest curse at the same time.
Yeah.
It's depending on how it's used, man, because it produces a lot of know-it-all people out there in the world who only have internet knowledge. And at the same time, man, it makes people worry unnecessarily, because then they start Googling something. They say, oh God, I could have this disease or I could have that disease. And that never used to be the case, man, before the internet.
I like that term, internet knowledge. I'm going to use that. You're right. Internet knowledge of people. That's all their whole frame of reference is. They Googled something.
Yeah, cite your sources. Okay, internet knowledge. I got you.
Yeah.
I know where you're coming from.
Exactly. Yeah. As opposed to, I was talking about this yesterday with Brady, but we've been talking about the tradition of having things being passed down, the old traditions of the elders and the ancestors of the people that had a particular skill or a particular piece of wisdom that would, the apprenticeship system, passing as being the normal, that's supposed to be the normal way that we learn. We get with other people that know about the thing or that do the thing that it is we want to do, and we learn as much as we can from them, with them. And it definitely with the extent of the online guru and the Google and the internet knowledge and the certification program and all this kind of thing, it's that real apprenticeship system has taken a hit. It ain't gone, but it's definitely taken a hit. And I'm seeing a lot of the younger generation don't really understand that's something that they're supposed to be going after. That's something they're supposed to put themselves in a position to be in and have an apprenticeship kind of relationship, as opposed to there's this mentality of they'll idolize an internet celebrity or a influencer. So instead of trying to apprentice with somebody, they just want to copy what the influencer did. And if they can get a whole bunch of followers, then that equates to them of having that kind of authority. Because I got a lot of followers, so I must be an authority. It's like, no, that's not how it works. And so we're going to have a generation or a couple generations, unfortunately, of that the non-apprenticeship system mentality, the Google.
And that's, I guess I never thought of it in that exact term, but my children know what to do. Now they know what to do when their children don't feel well. They know what to do when they feel the mucus buildup coming on. They know what to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so in a way, this is a real practical way of passed on knowledge, at least, even if you don't call it an apprenticeship. It's a serious thing.
Yeah. It's really how that, because you just said you were talking to Vic for hours a day.
Talking about black holes and the whole thing, those conversations, man, I'm still trying to catch up to them because they were so advanced. Listening to him talk about black holes and the process of becoming an immortal, the process of becoming invisible to this realm, and just his thoughts on it were so profound.
Right.
Because he came from a generation of profound thinkers.
Yeah.
It's just, you go home and then you wouldn't be able to say anything at the time. And then maybe the next day I think of a question to ask or something.
Yeah. And when years ago, if you go to the old content, like some of that stuff will be there. But then I got to a point, I was like, man, we can't talk about this on here. People ain't ready for this. And so now we're starting to with the meetups and then the things that are happening behind the scenes in the community, I'm starting to be able to have some of these conversations and to just explore some of these ideas where it's actually like, all right, man, me and Vic used to talk about this. Go read an encyclopedia about that. Let's go check this out.
But see, the difference is we were trying to build to put together a skeleton for the framework of how it could be.
Yeah.
The people out there today, they'll talk about all kind of out-of-body experiences, astral travel, but there's no mechanics.
Right.
There's not a lot of mechanics to a lot of this stuff. You're a breatharian, but you just decided to be a breatharian. That's all it is?
Damn.
Why wouldn't I just decide that then?
Yeah, like I
decided it was hard as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, the mechanics. And for me, what those discussions did is it helped with for me to practice the Mucusless diet. It helped with fasting. I could put things into perspective. And when you can handle those discussions and that level of discussion and it doesn't freak you out or get you way off into your head, and where you can really see the entire pathway from talking about a bioluminescent being that you can't get too close to because their skin is literally getting close to something that's just on fire and you have to step back. It's just shining. And the kind of transmutation of the blood that would take place to make that possible. That's the kind of stuff that will be inspirational while you're fasting, while you're laying there doing an enema. Okay, I'm gonna work on this blood transmutation.
But what Vic would do is he would relate it to like the Bible and talking to the burning bush. And that was one of these beings talking through the burning bush. That was the allegory, but a radioactive being communicating divine information.
Yeah. In the one story, it wasn't even the bush. It was just the God figure that was just turned around in the tent and Moses talking to him. And then Moses, well, why don't you turn around so we can see your face? And the entity said, you couldn't handle it. Right. If I turned around, you would burn up. And the
Mucusless Diet Healing System gave us some kind of framework to look at stuff like that from the point of view of mechanics. And I'm really appreciative, man. It came at a point in my life where I knew I needed to turn things around. And that was the way to do it. Because like you, if somebody did some interviews before, I heard you hit you with raw foods just right off the rip, it wouldn't have worked, man. You coming from eating Burger King and stuff like that. It just didn't make any sense.
Right.
That I'm going to just do this now.
Yeah.
And so I feel the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I remember some of our early conversations, we would talk cause you had a similar physiology to mine, I think, didn't you? Or we had ate similarly and cause you had played football and that whole piece.
Yeah. I think you were a little bit more advantaged than me. Like you had got to really be a glutton with the fast food, but I didn't have it like that.
Yeah.
But I probably would have if I had the resources to do it. The ability to do it. I would have probably been right there.
Yeah. So that was a good thing to not have all those resources to be able to eat like that, put yourself in that type of condition. And
I have to say, man, when you came around, man, we learned a lot more. I don't know if you ever thought of it that way, but because of the things you had experienced in your background and how your elimination was, that was learning for us too. That was a part of our education. I appreciate that too, man, because we had never seen anybody blow their nose that many times.
Yeah. The mucus faucet type of eliminations. And now that was a special time. That was something just where you got this like group of people that know they have something that has the potential to just transform humanity and change the world. And we're building in the way that we can with the resources we have, with the WAVE radio. It's like whatever we got. It's like before the internet was popping off and social media. So we got WAVE. Let's go get a show on WAVE. Then as soon as YouTube hit, we had some videos on YouTube and just that kind of thing. But always really tried to tried to grow, man. I just knew this was just something so special, and that the community that was coming together, it was just it was a beautiful thing, a beautiful time of transformation. Most definitely. Yeah. And I wanted to ask, so one interesting thing, get your thoughts on this, if this is just like a coincidence or if this is something that kind of proves what Eric was saying was true. But it seemed as you had more children, your children kept getting darker as they would like progressively. So I get your thoughts on that. Is that just a coincidence, or is there something to what Professor Arnold Ehret had to say about the correlation between cleaning yourself up and getting a little darker?
Yeah, my oldest daughter, looks a lot like my father, actually. And my mother's a darker skin tone, and my father was a lighter skin man. And so it was really no surprise to me. But then with each child it definitely, you can see some changes. Yeah, you can definitely see some changes. I think there is something to that. And even different periods of time in our own lives. I've seen Brother Air start to get pretty dark at times where he fasted a long time and stuff to be out in the sun. Yeah, I think there's definitely something to that, man.
Yeah, that was always fascinating to me when we looked like, that would make sense where you could tell like how deep you were into the practicing the diet with is over time. That's reflected in where people are physiologically. And because I always make that case or that talk about focusing on the bloodline and something that's bigger than yourself, because there's so many very in our little sphere, or the sphere that's perpendicular to us with the raw foods or the fruitarian or whatever these different movements are. There's a lot of very self-absorbed type of people that's just so into themselves in an ego way, not in I'm going to really try to really get myself together. I want to look great. I want to go have my beach body. I want to be an influencer and a guru and a teacher and have whatever. It's like people are coming at it from a perspective of, as opposed to, and which hasn't caught on yet, because I still feel like I'm like the only person to talk like this, but I'm saying, clean yourself up. Yeah, you're doing it for you, but the reason you're doing it for you is so that you can create something better than yourself, that's cleaner than you. And that has an opportunity to take your bloodline to the next level and potentially over the hump, as Brother Air says.
I agree with that, man. That's why as soon as our children started having children, then I had to give them the speech, man, to remind them what this is all about. Because now it wasn't about them anymore either. Now it's about the next generation. Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. There was one community that I met in the early years. They now live in Belize. And as far as the diet went, I had some differences of opinion as far as the all raw food diet, as far as the mucus forming foods. But as far as to this day, man, his family just is growing and expanding. They are generations into knowledge of how to grow food, how to build structures, how to live off grid and everything. Those things you talked about before is definitely goals that we need to really be looking at in the upcoming years.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I didn't even get a chance to mention it. That was the influence for Back to Life Healing Foods. I didn't never say live foods because, like I said, I saw how popular it was becoming at that time, and is much more popular now. So I was just making salads and stuff for people to throw some pretty much mucusless things at people that they might enjoy and to open the conversation. But what was happening was they were like, can you make nut meat? Can you make me a big tub of nut meat? And I'm like, that was in like 2000, man. I started Back to Life Healing Foods. And so it was a lot of years. It just stayed underground because I didn't want to be associated with something, and I didn't want to fake the funk. Like, I believed in exclusively raw foods, no matter if you were eating raw sweet potatoes and stuff like that. I wasn't on that, man. But as a part of the healing system, unbeknownst to people, we do eat raw food.
Well, we eat mostly raw. It's like we
eat mostly raw food.
We just don't think in that, with that paradigm, that there's a very distinctive paradigm that many dogmatic raw foodists the angle that they come. And I'm friends with a whole bunch of them, and we're cool. We get together, we get along. But I try to demonstrate the difference of paradigm where it's not that not all cooked food is created equal. There's a whole universe in between some cooked meat, there's some cooked fish, there's some cooked whatever, cheese and pizza, and versus some steamed vegetables, some sauteed kale or stewed kale, or
even stewed apples or something.
Collard greens, stewed apples and baked banana. It's a whole different reality. And unless you study and or practice the Mucusless Diet Healing System, you pretty much are going to lose that all these important tools that you really truly need to transition. You just won't even know about them or not use them. And
what people are looking at there, that's actually from a birthday right there. I don't remember whose birthday. And so once I started seeing that other people liked it, I said, okay, this would be another conversation to give them something that I don't even eat them, but I will make them for the family for birthdays and stuff. And the crust of the pies that you were looking at before, that's just dates. It's mostly dates and a little grated coconut.
Okay.
It's mucus lean, pretty lean,
minimal.
It's almost all fruit.
Yeah.
You know, coconut is a fatty fruit, but it's not that much coconut even in it.
No. And it eliminates decent. It's going to eliminate well, unless you're so far along that you're too sensitive for it. But it's pretty far along when you get too sensitive for that. So
if anybody's wondering, that's how Back to Life was like something to open the conversation about diet and cleansing and those kind of things. And because we live in America, it was like, okay, I will sell these. My conscience could accept me selling these as opposed to some other stuff. I see people who got raw pizza business, and it's all dehydrated stuff, man. And it's very super concentrated. I don't think that's okay on the transition. So it's toast on the transition, in my opinion.
Now remember, it was all the classic transition tools. You got your toast and your all that kind of stuff. Now I remember when you had started, you were doing this was like Back to Life DoorDash before DoorDash. All that stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It was the height of all of the juice business, man, was like during the whole, I don't even want to say it, the whole scamdemic thing, you know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, people were scared into trying to be healthy.
Right.
And in that regard, for those people, it was a kind of a good thing. Even my mother at the time, she was pretty much all plant food eating. She was scared, but she wouldn't eat anything. You know what I mean? She wouldn't eat any meat. She doesn't really eat a lot now. She doesn't really eat any dairy anymore. That was a good thing. And I was able to finally have some level of influence on her during that time. I said, Mom, if you're scared, you could do this to try to avoid contracting anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's all this stuff is like a day in the life. The Ra Sekhi family. Anything we do as a business is from our real life, man. My wife is a midwife. She teaches earth workers, does stuff with women's health and things of that nature. That's something I made for a friend of mine that I don't know. I think I made that for my wife. She asked me to. And yeah, man, it's all a day in the life.
I was going to share so I want everybody to follow Khaleeq over here, Back to Life Healing Food. And I think that's what you have on Facebook as well, right? It's Back to Life Healing Food.
Yes.
You find her on Instagram, Facebook.
And I haven't done much. You're going to inspire me to do more with because I've got a lot of videos here and there that I just haven't used YouTube a lot. So I meant to do some of that this week. Oh yeah, that's our trip to Kemet 2020. That was an interesting time because it came right after my mother-in-law transition. And I was gone for every day that year. Something I always, I'm coming this year, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
Something always comes up, man. We were gone for 2 weeks or something in Kemet that August. And then we're home for 2 weeks. And then we went to Jamaica to get certified Egyptian yoga. You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So talk a little bit about that, your yoga practice.
Sister Tekoa, I've been into it for a long time, man. We did this certification and we got a different angle of yoga with the Egyptian yoga. Is something I was really interested in making that connection. I've been doing yoga all throughout the years, even the years when my mucus lean was getting the better of me. People don't understand, man. I was still doing yoga. I was still doing enemas. I was still eating food every morning. We have those periods and it's not that you put the practice down. It's just that some of your periods are better than others.
Right.
Some of your periods, different things are needed. I remember when like you said, in previous videos, you stopped doing the long fast at a certain point because of something you were going through and it was time to do something else.
Right.
Because I don't think that people really get that the only way to get to what Brother Era does and all of that stuff is through eating. And mastering eating. If you don't master eating first, it's going to have a hard time getting there.
Exactly.
So this 2 weeks there, it was 2 weeks of raw foods down there. And I didn't want the nuts and seeds, man. So it was pretty much a fruit fast for me for 2 weeks. And as you can see, that was another one of the darker periods.
I was just about to say, like
darkness, everybody.
Real darkness.
There. You know, I was in that hot Jamaican sun. And
that makes me, I'm looking at this, just I need to get in my van and drive on down to that sun.
I know, man. And I was, like I said, I was just eating fruit because I didn't, and they had the kind of spicy raw foods and stuff. And I didn't touch any of that, man. I was just like, just give me mangoes and pineapple or something and I'm good. So I did have a little bit of greens, but that whole time was pretty much just fruit and coconut water.
Yeah.
The picture of the purple there, that's where I do yoga. And now it's a place in Norwood for anybody in Cincinnati.
Okay.
Royalty Petite Sisters, beautiful sister. She opens her place up to a lot of stuff in the community, man. So I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah. I think we got a picture of you is that those pictures inside that studio? Hold on, let me find these.
And we take so many pictures. I can't keep track. Yeah, that's inside right there. That's some of the people in the class. And the class is really, I fit as many people in there as I can. It's growing. Eventually I'll have to get somewhere bigger. But she comes out, oh yeah, that's the partner yoga stuff there. And that's been a lot of fun. I think sometimes people think on this lifestyle, it seems so strict and all that. They think we don't have fun, man, but we really have a lot of fun. Problem a lot more fun because just this right here, there's a whole story behind that in preparing to do this and making sure that she didn't fall in front of all those people because that was at an event like a yoga.
Yeah.
And we have been working out with the partner yoga just for that. That's not something that we teach every day or anything. So yeah, man.
Yeah, that's a good lift.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Deborah. She said I'm allergic to mango. Sure.
But I don't know what frozen. I wonder why you would be allergic to mango, but not if it's frozen. That's
Maybe you might want to make sure that you're actually getting a ripe mango.
Oh yeah, you could definitely break out if it's those like unripened, acidic kind of mangoes. You can, your whole mouth would just be like pimpling up and stuff.
But yeah, man, I don't know what your experience has been. And I never really actually the time to ask you about stretching and yoga. Like, how much of that does that play a part? Have you noticed yourself be more flexible since you practice the diet?
Yeah, and I've been getting into more stretching like over the past couple years and looking into different forms and still finding the angle that I like because I came more out of that. It's like when I went back to getting into stretching, I would go back to just old like 1990s varsity football. It's how it looks like. I don't look fancy and it's yoga and stuff. And I just look like an old football player doing those real basic, super extra basic things. And I do certain stretches and stretch out the back and I crack my back. And that's the one thing I do every day is I got that little exercise where I can crack my back, which is good for me. And I'll do the stretches really because my target areas are lower back and my shoulders. And that's where if I don't that if I'm going through an elimination, that's why I feel it, because those were places where I had injuries when I was before practicing the diet. And so that can still flare up. Like the injury that I had when I was 4 that flared up years ago during the long fast. I had a really bad ankle sprain that I had when I was real young that never it was one of those sprains that's like worse than a break. And so I was like really hobbling around for like months. And so it never really healed. And this was, I don't know how many years in, this was like 6, 7, 8 years into practicing the diet. And I was doing a long fast, and I was laying in bed one day, and man, it felt like my ankle just broke, like it was literally broken. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do nothing. I was just laying there trying not to cry because it hurt that bad. And so I was like, all right. And what can you do? I'm just keep on fasting. And a couple days later, it was gone and never came back again. That pain and that it was almost like I'd filtered whatever the old calcification of whatever was down there, that stuff filtered out of there. And I've never had that issue since. But I had, because so before I got into the diet, I wore orthotics in my feet that they gave me for flat feet. And for some reason, when I got into the diet, like I never thought to stop wearing them. I just didn't think about it. I just kept wearing them for years. And then it wasn't until, because back then too, because at a young age, I was starting to have really bad lower back pain because I was so heavy with the flat. And then even the flat, my feet being as flat as they are could be because of how heavy I was at a young age. That just permanently like changed my bone structure with all that weight when those formative years. So I had really bad back pain, an elderly type of person back pain when I was a preteen. And so he got those orthotics, and that's supposed to help. And it did, but it's one of the biggest band-aids that you could ever think of, as far as just, okay, we're just going to put something that forces your arch up in hopes that it doesn't create this chain effect where you have your lower back pain and all that stuff. It did affect that or improve that, but I practiced the diet for years and I lost all that weight, changed my physiology, but I never thought to stop using orthotics. When we get into the period of my fall period, the 2010, 2011, my back, it felt like there was a period, it felt like it was broken. I had to go through this elimination and everything else that was going on. And so that's when it occurred to me. I was like, man, I need to stop wearing these. I'm going to stop. I got rid of the orthotics. I started going out every day in the backyard, and I was just I hadn't even read about it, and no one had talked about it, but I was doing what people call earthing, I guess. I was going out just to go barefoot, but for me, it was a therapeutic, something that was more intuitive. But just to go be I was just trying to be barefoot, walking around as much as possible to force my body to just wake up and to react. And there was times during that fasting periods I was doing in that period when I would lay down, I'd be laying down in the bed, and I could literally, it felt like my arch, like surgery was being done on it. Like it felt like fingers were in there, like massaging it and doing stuff to it. And I just would be like, this is weird, but I'm not going to move. I'm going to let it do whatever it's doing. And then I came out of that, and I did learn some exercises. That's why I studied a little bit of physical therapy. And that's where I think the discipline of physical therapy has something to offer out of all those different disciplines in that Western system. There's things within the physical therapy that I found to be real useful that are probably also in different yoga traditions, but certain types of stretching, there's like little things that I was doing with my feet to strengthen the muscles and around that area. So that helped with getting rid of the back pain, the knee issues that was going on at the time. Like that was just a big period of total transformation in that particular little fasting period. But
that's interesting that you mentioned like your arches and stuff, because I did have a similar background. I never really got that heavy, but I had flat feet all growing up. I was always like tall and big for my age, big boned, as they said back in those days.
Right.
And what I've noticed is that I have an arch now. like over time with, I won't attribute it just to the diet, but with the diet and certain types of movements, I think can really be effective in like restructuring everything, not just the inside of our body, our bones structure, everything, man. And so that's deep that you mentioned that, because now I'm into the yoga, but I'm also into Qigong and Tai Chi and stuff too, from our type of perspective of, okay, now that I'm cleaning myself out a lot, what is internal energy? So that I'm not just like imagining things and I got a bunch of stimulation inside of my body. In my mind, in order for chi to flow, you would have to be as much as possible. And so now let's see what Tai Chi really, beyond the external, how do I make this energy move inside my body, up my spine, all throughout? And so I think the most legitimate way, let me be careful how I say that. Another way of looking at it is an unobstructed body will give you a lot more answers, because I don't want to invalidate great things that other people are doing because they spend their whole lives in that. But I'm interested in it from that perspective.
I always say, whatever the discipline is, when you come at it from the perspective of the Mucusless Diet Healing System and the filter of Ehret's paradigm, you will see everything totally different. And that's if you go and study medical science, if you study Eastern medicine, if you study different yogic traditions, like whatever it is, and you incorporate vitality equals power minus obstruction into the viewpoint, you will see it differently. It comes to life in a different way. And so when I hear about all those different traditions, I'll often say anything that aligns itself with vitality equals power minus obstruction, that's why it can work. The degree to which it can work will be limited by the person's physiology and their diet. So, but you can move, because even, from whether it's Reiki tradition or the old school, the healer, the type of healers that had the energy in their hands, the laying a hand, all that stuff, to me, that if it's helpful in terms of dealing with treating the symptom. If you know about the Mucusless diet and you use that at the beginning to help you out, just to feel a little better and to remove some obstructions, but you're really focused on your physiology, then it's excellent. But when you rely on that solely, like people that they feel a little better with acupuncture, now they're doing acupuncture every day for 20 years or something, or several times a week or something like that, without changing their diet, without getting into some fasting, you combine fasting with some well-placed Reiki or acupuncture or lymphatic massage or just whatever the tradition is. Now you're working with something, because now you're really focused on that clearing of obstruction, body, mind, and spirit, on all those different spheres. And I think but that, to me, that's the angle we got to come at it, and few do. There's few of us out here that really see it like that.
Yeah, well, Ehret mentioned the fakir. I don't know if I'm saying it. Basically, he's talking about yogis, man, in India and stuff. Yeah. But he was mentioning it from the Mucusless Diet Healing System perspective of V equals P minus O. And I think another reason is sometimes that's not interesting to people, because they think, okay, you become a breatharian and you just sit around and do nothing. I think that's how people look at it. But it's no, man, we got worlds to explore.
Right.
I'm so excited. It's something new every day that you can explore, from getting into this deeper and deeper.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Tell us a little bit about, you talked about my fall just a little bit, but tell us just a little bit about that period a few years ago now, right? Where you were just going through healing crisis, like whatever we call it. We have this term we call the fall, where you just have a really intense healing crisis period that can last an extended period of time. I guess, tell us a little bit about that period and how you persevered through that.
Yeah, the fall was a wake-up call, because it came when we went to Africa. It got real. We were in Tanzania for about almost a year.
Right. And you would move and you moved there, right? You were gonna with the intention of staying.
we were planning on staying, man.
Yeah.
It was interesting because at that time, what America was going through, this is 2020. Man. And so like August of 2020, once again, I wasn't there for Aaron Day. We left the country, but it was, everything looked like it was going to get real crazy. And so we just like sped up our plan to look in other places. But I had a friend over there, fortunately, he had been there like at that time already like 6 or 7 years. And so we weren't going there blind. I got into some cleansing over there after a long period of mucus lean again. It was another phase of my life where, and I did some fasting over there. I think I did, I don't know, like 5 or 6 weeks or something like that. But I started feeling some stuff that I wasn't sure if it was adrenal stuff. I started even having a little acid reflux over there. And there could be a lot of reasons for that, because for one, over there, the fruit was very different than the fruit here. Now, to preface it, we lived in a house where we had orange trees, we had lemon trees in our yard, we had mango trees in our yard. It was beautiful in that regard. There was even a small soursop in the yard too. Avocado trees, even though we didn't even have a chance to eat those, but I wasn't eating avocados at that point anyway. But it was, I don't know if I hit a pocket because of the intensity of that fruit.
Because when you say the fruit's different, in what way would you describe
I would say that it was a lot more potent. It was a lot more potent. So the lemons over there, which were green on the outside, by the way, and so were even a lot of the oranges. They were just, even when they were ripe, they were green. It was intense, but I think it was more so what was going on with my body and stuff. And luckily for me, once again, like I said, I'm appreciative for you, brother, because some stuff we learned from you, that your fall was a little different than Brother Air's fall. And I at least knew I'm going to be okay, because I didn't experience anything really extreme over there. But I had been on this higher feeling for a while, where feeling more up. And there was a period of take it all the way down. And it extended on into when we came back over here too. And I listened to more of Dr. Morris at that time to see what he said about the adrenals and all of that stuff, and experimented a little bit with few herbs and things. But my wife is a herbalist. If it was something I wanted to check out, I would just have her make it and everything. But yeah, man, it was a mental and a physical elimination, I would say, over there. And whenever you have the mental eliminations, the physical stuff feels like 5 times more intense. Than when you don't have the mental eliminations. There was a lot going on over there. It was the political environment was a little intense. It was election year. And over there, if people start worrying about the opposition, like getting on the internet and saying something negative, they'll just cut the internet off for 2 or 3 weeks. And we're over there, we can't communicate with our children. So all this stuff is going on at the same time. And our children are worried and wondering what's going on and everything. My mother was wondering what was going on.
Because would you say, was that the worst elimination that you had practicing the diet that particular fall? Or did you have something years ago that was worse than that?
Everything before that, in the early years, I would just have like a general feeling of a light weakness over extended periods of time, of being real strict mucusless for long periods of time and stuff like that. But nothing where I really felt like I couldn't get out of the bed at all. And like I said, because it was like an emotional type, I guess I'll say, elimination as well, everything felt magnified when I was over there. And yeah, Brother Aaron said he was hearing from me every day. I was like, man, what's going on? But then at a certain period of time, even he worried, because then he wasn't hearing from me for a week and a half. And he's like, man, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. It's just, it was definitely a big emotional type of elimination too. And changing environments, I think, can do that. I think that people take, not all places on the earth are created equal. And so I think there is something to like a magnetic grid type of thing So we were on a different grid over there.
Yeah.
Different electromagnetic energy. And I felt things that I hadn't really felt before.
Yeah. That physiological, you get so sensitive as you clean yourself out, you're getting more and more sensitive to vibrations and energy and sounds and smells, and all of your senses are way heightened, which is a thing. It's very hard to explain that to somebody, because until you experience it, I can tell you, like, yeah, my sense of smell is really strong. Then if somebody's around me and they can see I'm smelling stuff from a mile away, then they're like, okay, we see what you're talking about. But it's still, so when you take yourself to a particular environment, we feel all those different energies, and the vibrations is much more in tune to what's going on. And I could see how that, back to Africa, practicing a diet.
People gave off of energy, and the earth is a body too. I think people don't really think of it like that, but the earth is a body too. Yeah. And it's that part of the earth, that part of the body felt different over there. Yeah. This part of the body we call earth.
Yeah. Because it's basically, if you will, Cincinnati going from the colon, like the very bottom of the colon, to Africa, which would be like the lungs or something.
I think I had taken that part for granted a little bit, as far as what you might go through in that regard, because we were so preoccupied with finding a house and how to navigate all the immigration stuff and everything. Yeah, it was definitely an intense period of time for various reasons. But I didn't really have any type of symptoms that were so severe that like they had to call the ambulance or anything like that, even really feel that worried. But inside of myself, I felt like something was off or wrong. And so I think that it took me deeper into, more than anything, it took me deeper into an emotional cleanse than I had.
Yeah, it's interesting. That was,
as you have children, man, I guess you stuff down to an extent and try to raise some.
Yeah. It makes sense that you would have meant with raising the family in that way, which was what a lot of parents do or did, especially the old school, where you kind of stuff your emotions down so that you're just present for the family, working with the family. And then you have to go off to yourself and go through those emotional eliminations. But if you never do that, then and your body and your elimination forces you to do it, then that's when you have those breakdowns. And I know I was like one of the, because I've talked about, my practice, because if we talk about yoga, I got my Sedona method yoga, which was like my version of just emotional release yoga, which I've done. I got into before practicing the Mucusless diet. And that it's a very simple process and methodology, but man, it really helped me along this path, because it's just a habit that the releasing which is our natural state. It's just, as we grow up, society trains us to suppress our emotions and to hold things in. But as I'm sure you've seen with the young people up to a certain age, they can shift through multiple emotions quickly.
Oh yeah.
When they ain't holding on to nothing, they can be like super happy, then sad, then amazed, and then they get in the matter of a minute or two, they can go through all these different emotions. They didn't hold on to one of them. It just flowed. And but as we get older, we don't do that anymore. We don't learn. We don't know. It's like we're taught to not flow and to not just be freely expressive with our emotions. And then we start holding things in. And then that's obstruction. That's emotional obstruction on that plane of existence. And so that's why I warn people when they start to do the fasting, that if you either need to know how to do those kind of releasing for yourself. Like, it doesn't have to be Sedona method. It can be something else, but you better have something because it all works the same. It deals with the neuroplasticity in the brain, and you can break it down from a scientific perspective or a spiritual perspective. At the end of the day, it's all vitality equals power minus obstruction. But if you don't deal with that, like, people get caught off guard because they'll be doing a fast, and then all of a sudden they're like I was crying all day yesterday, and then I got furious, and all this anger came up, and I'm like, that's what I told you, that all those emotions that have been suppressed are going to come up because people suppress that, and then most people that if you're not practicing the Mucusless diet, you're suppressing your emotions with the food that you're eating and the coffee you're drinking and all the different smoking and the drugs and the weed and all that stuff. So much stuff is suppressed. And that's why as soon as they start to take that stuff away and clean themselves up, for some of them, it's unbearable because they feel so uncomfortable in their body. And their regular body is just so uncomfortable because they don't know what it is to experience the body without stimulation.
Yeah, man. And then the president ended up dying while we were over there. And that was intense too, man. Mm-hmm. Under some kind of controversial circumstance, they said he had a heart attack or something, but it was like he was somebody who took a different kind of stance against Europe and coming in and taking the resources and things of that nature. And that played a part of it too, man. It was like, oh my goodness, what is going on over here? Because then we were wondering like, what's going to happen next? Is there going to be pandemonium in the streets? And it was an intense period of time, man. It really was.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause there's no rules. Like people think they get all over comfortable. And I was like, man, this whole thing could go up in smoke and there ain't no rules. Yeah. There's nothing that preventing that from happening. And you get in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's
in a country of 60 million people.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That was, that fall period, I realized it more now than I did at the time, that there was a large emotional component to it because my wife never was really worried. It's okay. She could just sense like physically, I wasn't in such bad shape. And it was like some other aspect of spiritual or emotional and stuff. But it felt really intense. And yeah, man, it was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. We try to prepare people. It's like the challenge is to prepare people without scaring people, which where it's, look, what we're trying to say is this is do you want the Garden of Eden lifestyle or not? Like the real version. You really want to go through the level of cleansing, the level of mental and spiritual transformation to actually earn that to where you're really living that life. Right. Or do you want to play games and think you're doing that, but you're not really doing the work? And so this is what it looks like because my thing was that even my lowest day practicing the diet with as low as I got and the things I went through, I was still in better shape than my best day when I was eating all that pus and mucus and the 2 pounds and that whole experience. So for me, there was never like, I'm looking back, there's something to go back to, which is what some people go through, that they start feeling a little bit not perfect. They might feel great for a while. Then they start going through elimination. They don't feel perfect. And they start thinking back about maybe I need some protein. Maybe I need some, some B12 and I need, let me get this and that. And it's like they're missing the whole point of what this path is really about, what the transformation and the reconstruction of your bloodstream is really what it takes. And we're trying to bring those examples to the table and the understanding of it. But it's, as Brother Air says, don't get scared if it gets too real. It can be very real.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. The whole process, man, is a beautiful thing. Sometimes people can become so fearful. They say, what if you die doing it? It's like, if that's the case, then I know that this has lengthened my life over what I would have been, what it would have been had I not done it. So then it's still extended my life. Then I still wouldn't change anything. Once you take away those kind of little elementary fears, then you can really experience the beauty of practicing it. Once you get past the little lower level logical parts of it, now you're really into something.
Yeah.
I remember Vic saying, he would talk about getting dizzy and he'd say, and let's see how dizzy we can get. You know what I mean? That was his attitude about
Yeah,
He just needs to bring it on.
yeah. Like you run toward the elimination. In a smart way.
We're telling, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're telling everybody to be smart now. At a certain point, you have to go through what you have to go through, man. One thing I've noticed about the transition liberty, the transition diet, is that everybody goes there at some point in their life. They can be old and feeble. There's certain things they're just not going to eat anymore. And it's like, why not consciously go through it? I was listening to an interview of a well-respected raw food elder, and he's in his like later 70s now. And he was talking about being on a fast, and ended up being, when he turned 68, he did 68 days. But what was amazing to me, he said he got to 12 days and he hadn't had a bowel movement, and he was concerned. So he did an enema, and this big foul load of waste came out. And he was surprised. And that's the part that's surprising.
That's surprising.
Surprised. Yeah. But then he didn't do any more enemas. He had 3 bowel movements for the first 50 days or something. And then he had this big, gigantic load came out. And it was enormous. And, what's really interesting to me, to make a long story short, now he can't eat a lot of that stuff anymore. He doesn't eat much in nuts and seeds. He doesn't eat a lot of avocado. He slowed down on it. You come to the transition one way or the other. But to all our raw fooders, brothers and sisters, I just say, do it all along the way. Do it in a way where, you realize that these are transitional foods, and that you can dictate the speed of your transition and get to a stronger place down the road. Because I think what happens with a lot of people, man, is that I realized this over the years too, is that they look at nutrition the same as everybody else. They become raw foodies, but all of a sudden now they're talking, anytime you're using terms like essential fatty acids and protein and all of these things and how many grams of protein and stuff, you believe the same thing as everybody else. You just don't believe in harming animals, or you believe that this is a cleaner version, but your whole idea about what the body needs hasn't changed that much.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, no, we've been dealing with that. We're always dealing with that with people because they're addicted to those nutrition theories that are just bad. But you research the history of them, you're like, like we're really believing this. This is what we're going with, is this. Right. But yeah, people really want to hang on to that. And we try to introduce, it's just as Eric calls it, the new physiology. It's a new paradigm, the paradigm shift, a different way to look at the body. And from a philosophical standpoint, I always ask the question, what's the usefulness of your theory? So what's the usefulness of the protein theory? Okay, it exists. It's a thing that the theory itself, it exists. The word exists. What's the usefulness of looking at the human body through that lens? Because that's a choice where you can try to look at it through that lens. You can, the harebrained calorie theory, you can go that direction. You can, but what's the real usefulness of that? What's the usefulness of looking at foods for their eliminative abilities? And what we found is that's much more useful of a framework to look at food and how the body operates from the perspective of elimination, and from the vitality equals power minus obstruction, the removal of obstruction perpetually from the body, which the body does perpetually all day. You're eliminating. And then when you can either aid your body in the perpetual elimination it's already doing, or you can obstruct that elimination. But that's the shift. That's the difference in opinion, or not opinion, but just paradigm, a different way to look at human physiology.
One thing that I try to do to bridge the gap, because I guess people think of we're this great confrontationalist. Really, we want to get along, man. People don't know that about us. So how I try to bridge the gap is this. Okay, I won't deny that there's some kind of a natural chemical substance in these foods, and you might call it vitamin A. there's something in carrots that makes them orange. I'll agree with that. But what I'm saying is, as a consumer of food, there's no way for the average lay person to be able to tell what vitamins in their food without their internet knowledge.
Without their internet knowledge and the commercials that they watch, you know.
How could you measure it? I'm gonna be honest, I don't have any machines.
Right.
Maybe these guys got machines at home where they can break stuff down in subatomic particles and look at it under a microscope. What kind of way of life, a way to live is that, where you look at your food that way? There is some kind of chemical substance in there, but in our world, how does it eliminate from the body? How does it eliminate? How long is the transit time?
Right.
Between when you eat it and when it comes out. All of these things are the factors. That's the way we look at food, rather than, your protein needs. And so if all cooked foods aren't created equal, all proteins aren't created equal either, obviously, if they got Mickey D's on there, but
Yeah, get 55% of your daily protein needs. We got our nutrition information. It's got 59% protein, vitamin A, 18%, vitamin C, 75%, thiamine, 25%, riboflavin, niacin, iron, calcium. Man, this is wholesome. Man, you can get
everything. But it could cause high blood pressure. It may cause high blood pressure.
Yeah, it may cause high blood pressure. It may cause strokes and heart attacks and osteoporosis and so on and so forth. And so that's a point I always try to make is, if you really look at the history of your understanding of the concept of nutrition, you would, I think, almost anybody that's born after anybody born after, 1950 would have to admit that their whole understanding of nutrition is based on advertising like this. Advertising of the, anytime when you're selling something, as from the perspective of marketing and advertising, you want to try and create an ad that makes the person feel as if they need your product. So people in food industry, the meat and the dairy folks, they got real hip to this real quick. And they're like, okay, let's take this weird nutritional concepts that we have, and let's just say, since you need this anyway, you might as well get it from us. Since you need protein, you might as well get it from a Big Mac. Since you need calcium, you might as well get it from some high homogenized cow pus from hard that we're selling to you. And so that's where I encourage people to do an audit on because I grew up with all those cereal advertisements that was just how all this cereal was fortified with all this stuff, when it was just mostly corn syrup and just garbage. They've framed it like it's healthy. It's, this is,
because man, they are above the law. The average person like me and you will be subject to false advertising claims. You say the wrong thing, then it's libel and all these legal terms. Who checks these large corporations? We're not even going to shout them out and say their name. Who's going to check them on false advertising?
Right.
Who's going to check the medical industry on putting things out there that aren't necessarily true? Even though it gets brought up all the time that certain medications, they're always safe until they're deemed unsafe.
Yeah.
So they're above the law when it comes to this stuff anyway, man. So anybody who lives their life by that kind of information, man, is rolling the dice with their life.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, it's an interesting, just the whole question. I mean, I have a feeling that's going to be a discussion over the next couple years that we're going to be getting into more as things start to pop and stuff. People really take a look, because once they start to realize how different our paradigm really is, like how differently we think about food and diet. It's very different from the average raw foodist, the average vegan, the average vegetarian, whatever it is, like whoever they are, the average natural hygienist. This is a different paradigm. It's strong enough to stand on its own, to be a distinctive paradigm.
One of my favorite videos of all time, man, is actually the video you did about something about the
middle path.
Because that was the best way of describing it that I've seen. because we've all been over decades been espousing this same information, but like you hit it right on the head with calling it that video that, because that's it, man. It's the middle path. It's the way to push it and to be safe at the same time. It's a way to cleanse and to strengthen at the same time. It's a way to eliminate and be meditative at the same time. And I would think that's what people would want. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The mucus-free middle path, like we're right there. And most definitely in the art of fasting, the art of transition, bringing that artist mentality to the practice in a sphere where, again, people like to try to espouse fake science concepts, where it's just as if it's real. Trust the science, or this is scientific, or studies have shown it's. I've been in academia. I know how if you're really a scientist or you really want to claim science, like the kind of studying and research you have to do to really have an opinion on it, on the science. And nobody's doing that. People are watching like an Oprah episode where they cite some random study that was probably bought and paid for by the dairy industry or something. And then they say, oh, a study has shown that eating such and such can be good for this. And people really, the sad thing and the dangerous thing is people's opinions and paradigm about health is really shaped by that. It's just shaped by random news articles and advertisements and all this stuff. And then you go walking around. I always notice it more in Cincinnati than anywhere else. If I go to a supermarket in Cincinnati and just the level of despair, and people don't know, it's like people not knowing they're in hell. They're just the pain and the suffering, people that are hunched over, walking, and of all ages that are just walking, and just the whole vibe. And what people are doing is they're like shells of themselves, but they put themselves in front of a screen and then live vicariously through some celebrity. So they really don't realize the condition that they're in, because their whole consciousness is baked into the Real Housewives or whatever, and Jerry Springer show and whatever's on TV and or whatever's streaming. And that's been sad to see, because I talked about this in a couple videos where so I'm empathetic. Like I have this thing where I can feel, if I'm walking around, like I can feel people and I can feel that their pain like that. And I have the ability where I can turn that off and put the blinders on sometimes. But if I'm fasting or eating really clean, I really can't. And so I go into an environment like that, and it's like uncomfortable, not in a way of, man, I got to get out of here. It's uncomfortable in a sad way. Like I feel the despair that people have, that then they're not conscious of it. They're walking, they're living their life. They're going around, they're getting stuff, but you look in what they got they're limping around, or you can see that they have ailments and they hurt, and they got all this stuff, trash in their cart. And that just, I don't know, that it's all just bothered me. And that's why I do what I do. But it's like that. That's because it's not that hard. People don't have to be Brother Air. You don't have to do what we're doing at this level to feel better by just changing your diet a little bit and cleaning that colon out a little, like just to get started. And so that's where I'm like, man, this people, the whole level could at least get, because I'm not saying everybody's going to be doing jumping jacks in their 80s overnight kind of thing, but you can feel a lot better than.
I agree. And I'm fortunate to have had a lot of family members at least make it to their 90s and stuff. And I've got a great aunt. Yeah, my mother's aunt now, who is still alive in California. And she's, 94 or something like that. Maybe older than that. And she's the oldest sibling still alive of my grandmother's siblings. And it just makes you wonder, what if they had just a little bit of this? What's the potential there? You know what I mean? What's the potential? And looking at that, their children don't make it some of them are burying their children, man. You know what I mean? And that whole fraction of a fraction thing, it's just a deep thing, man. This is a time for the whole earth to shift in another direction. And I say we could do this the easy way or we could do it the hard way. It's going down either way, man. So what we suggest is like, why not try to ease the way a little bit if you can?
Most definitely. Yep. This is the work that needs to be done. Why don't you tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and all your social medias and channels and all that good stuff?
Yeah, man, it's an ever expanding thing. Definitely on Facebook. I've got a Back to Life Healing Foods page on there. Instagram. I'm easy to reach. I'm going to be putting more content on YouTube because I'm rearranging some things in my life now, doing more of something and less of some others. My wife has an educational platform and I'm going to be putting more things on there as well. So we're expanding. This whole thing is expanding, man. Thank you for bearing with us because I know I'm all over the place because we've got so much to say, man. Since been waiting for a while to finally get around to this. Did anybody have any other questions out there on the chat?
Let me see. We got a lot of good. See, a lot of people said they really liked the conversation. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, now's the time. Hit us on up here. Thanks to both. Yeah.
We definitely got a lot more we could talk about.
Oh yeah. No, we could. Yeah. This is.
We barely cracked the surface.
Yeah. No, we definitely do this again and keep. Yeah.
Yeah, brother. I think that's Trayvon. Hats off. He said, hats off to you, brother Khaleeq. I definitely appreciate it, man. The recognition and really the reason we put this out there is for people like you who are newer parents and wondering how you're going to raise your children, man. So, to just let you know, like, it's going to be okay. Things work out. They work out financially. They work out socially. Work out, man. Stay the course and keep being the best example you can be for your youth. And because they're always watching. And so like with me and brother Air, it was like, man, it was times we had to really turn it up a little bit because we got children watching and during their formative years. And this is how they're going to view, it's going to shape their life view, their worldview, as they say. Keep doing what you're doing, man. And you can hit me up or hit us up anytime in that regard, man, for sure.
Yeah.
Why did I choose Egyptian yoga? That's a good question. Like I said, I've been into yoga for years. I wanted to see it more from the African side of the coin. I know a lot of things are not given just credit, in particularly Egypt in particular, even as being a forerunner to what became the Mucusless Diet Healing System. So many things came from different aspects of Egyptian culture at different times. So I wanted to see it more from that side and connect with some more of the like Egyptian movements as you see on the walls, on the hieroglyphs and things of that nature.
What would be some of the main differences you would say between maybe Egyptian yoga versus Indian, the yoga from India, traditional Eastern traditions? What would be some of the main things that's just different?
First of all, there's a lot of similarities because
they came out of,
that would be a whole nother topic getting into the Black untouchables and stuff in India. But some of the differences are just in some of the postures and what it means. And the Egyptian culture, or Kemetic culture, as we say, is very interesting because there were a lot of things that they alluded to in picture form, like energy. You'll see different things where they hold their hands like this, and then you'll see something that represents energy coming out of their hand or coming out of a staff. And to me, it takes me into a deeper place of approaching yoga as an internal art, because there's a lot of symbolic stuff that was referenced in the hieroglyphs. And it makes you see, okay, there's some power in some of these movements if you clean yourself up.
Right.
And then you do it. So that's where I was coming from, was getting into it.
And what's your thoughts on the mystery school tradition? Was that part of the training, some of those principles, or is that something that's a little different?
As far as I can see, man, at the highest end of all of the mystical systems, that you get to V equals P minus O and stuff like that at the top of all of these systems.
Right.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
Me and Brother Eric were talking earlier. You mentioned today people wanting to have out of body experiences. Like, man, clean yourself up and then see how you look at it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Because everybody they want it to be something else. Like they really want the answer to be anything but this, or it's like they want it to be mystical, or it's as what Vic call it, spookyism. They want it that kind of thing when it's just just clean out your colon and stretch. And
what did they tell Pythagoras and all of them when they came to Egypt? You can't even get in the door till you fast first.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't. There's nothing to talk about. You still got pig and stuff in your intestines, man. Clean yourself up, and then you can come in here. And the so-called priestly class was fruits and vegetables, man. That's documented. Now you will see pictures of other foods or not foods, other things that people ate, like carcasses and stuff. But that wasn't for the priestly class. That was the fall of Egypt. You know what I mean? That was the fall of Egypt. Yeah. The priests held on to what was previously a way of life for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And most people, they look at most people's whole concept of Egypt is just so taken over by Hollywood and then that last little sliver of time in Egypt when things had already fell apart. And so we don't really get to see the real ancient, let's go way on for however many, 5,000 years, 4,000, whatever. Everybody's into the more recent stuff when it's, man, the party was already over by that point. You got to go back to really get that information. But yeah, I find it always found that interesting. Like I said, and Eric is where Eric points that out with the Pythagoras. So you had to fast for 40 days before you could get into the school. Like that's a real university. That's what a university should be. And a university institution structure that would have some real heavy information.
And that was his story of how it happened, man. I can just imagine the first couple of times they were like, man, get shit out of here.
Right.
Hey, are you kidding us? You think we could teach you? He had to be very persistent.
Yeah.
And then come back around and say, what can I do to get ready? And they say, all right, if you could survive, if you can do this, then maybe we'll think about it.
Yeah.
That's probably more so how it went.
Exactly. Yeah.
Jonathan said, what fruits besides grapes? Okay, you got it there. Which ones would be the best to end the fast with? First, those are good. Funny that you mentioned that. Those are good fruits to fast with because I was assuming you mean a water fast. But fruits that will be laxative in the body would be good if you were doing a water fast. But those are good fruits right there. And the reason I say it's strange that he mentioned that because I've been doing a little bit of fasting. I wanted to be in a good state when I came do this. So I think today is like day 9 or something. But I've been doing grapes this time around, and that's been really interesting. I haven't done grapes in years as back-to-back days of fasting.
Yeah.
And I squeeze a little lemon in it. So that's funny that he mentions that in relation to fasting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wish that, where are you getting your grapes from? Because I haven't seen good grapes in a long time around.
Oh, man, I haven't had that. We give up on that in Cincinnati. We do the best we can. But I got some seeded grapes, some like red glow grapes or something. I like juicing them better. Because I probably
Where was that? Like what, Kroger or you got like a
spot?
It was
at Kroger today.
Oh wow.
Yeah, one out here in Oakley. I'm close to Oakley and Hyde Park and stuff where I'm at. I catch them there pretty often. Sometimes I'll get some organic black grapes from like Whole Foods. They'll be a little pricey.
Yeah, it's $60. You'd be like, oh, God.
Right. I'll save money. So for those who wonder how we do it, man, we just save money on other stuff. That's what I did raising the children. I bought in bulk a lot. And there was different things that we just sacrificed. And we didn't go to the movies. So I could buy a case of lemons and buy a case of oranges for the children and all of these things. So that's what I was telling Trayvon to anybody else who has children, man. It works out. If you just have to hold the faith and be firm in your conviction, and the universe, which is a eternal living energy, interacts with us. And the more you experience it, the more you really trust that. And I think that Professor Spira and Brother Air would both attest to that fact.
Yeah. Yeah. You make it work. You have that intention, you have that desire, and there's no excuses. You figure it out. And I just went up to, I wish I'd have bought more of these pineapples up at Jungle Gyms. I was in town the other day.
Okay.
And man, those were some of the best pineapple I'd had in a long time. And I ended up just juicing the heck out of them, and they were gone. I got a bunch, I don't know, it's not a bunch, but like 6 of them, but they were gone in 2 days. I just went through them. I think I ate 2 of them and juiced the other ones. And so that's been my thing, is trying to find edible pineapple. I've been in that pineapple mode because it's been really hard finding grapes up here. I was able to do a week grapes at November. I think it was some decent grapes that I was able to find, but it's just so hard to find them there. You look in the bag, they're moldy and stuff, but like, it's just, come on, people. This is sad. Then it's moldy. Then you look at the price, and $3.99 for moldy grape, $3.99 for moldy grapes. I remember when it was 99 cents a pound for grapes all the time. And those were the good grape fasting days for me, when it was 99 cents a pound, and I'd be like, it's on.
Right.
It is on and popping right here.
But Brother Air said, you remember big cabbages?
I was just thinking about those. Yeah.
We went to a produce warehouse. We all did. And we would get our cases of lemons there, and oranges and lemons and stuff. And we would get the cabbages. They used to come in a big sack.
That big green sack.
Yeah, man, it weighed like 40 pounds or something. And we get it for $7.
Yeah.
My children, to this day, I have to admit, they eat cabbage, but they ate so much cabbage growing up. They like trying the other vegetables now. They really got burned out on cabbage. Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember getting the bag, and then I gave you guys some heads of it. Hey, brother, like, I'm giving it away, and still took me like 2 months to eat through it. And I just sat it there, had it in the fridge, and it would last pretty long time. And
yeah, man, Brother Air, we'd go get one. He would give me some of his, because he knew how many people we had at our house, and they said, we can't eat all these cabbages.
Yeah, the baked cabbage days where I used to bake it.
But that for everyone listening and with children and everything, that's one of the easy things that you can do, though, is to find I won't say easy, but one of the things you can do is to find a produce warehouse in your area and buy in bulk. I couldn't imagine trying to raise my children without doing that. It would have been very hard. And I wouldn't have stayed on the liberty, because I would have been trying to stimulate myself so much to make that much money.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have ate good.
Yeah. And you got to think in terms of, or do the best you can when it comes like organic, because you can't always do organic. And so sometimes you get, and of course that's been, I think in recent, like the past 10 years, it seemed like the toxicity of non-organic has gotten worse, like progressively worse, where it does push us more. Because I didn't really start to notice physiological disturbances with eating non-organic fruits and vegetables until 10 years ago. It was around 10 years ago, around the fall period. But that's when I actually noticed where I'd eat or drink some juice or something that was of some non-organic stuff, and I would have like an anxiety response to it. I could actually feel like, and then it would be there until I urinated, like till I eliminated, and then I all of a sudden urinate, and it'd be like I'd feel better again. And then so I experimented a little bit with, okay, let me have, here's organic, and then the next time, okay, here's non-organic. And then I would have that experience again. And so that's when I started to be like, okay, there is something to it. Everybody's body is at a different level of sensitivity. So my body was also sensitive.
Neurotoxin.
Yeah, it's the neurotoxic stuff is really what the worst stuff that's in it. And you do the best that you can in terms of deciding what do you select that's organic, what is not organic. You just figure it out as you go along. But
yeah, these days I try to get as many vegetables as I can organic for sure. Lettuce and stuff, I pretty much try to only eat the organic, like red leaf lettuce and stuff. Well, our family's a lot smaller now, and I'm not buying in bulk because I would have been in trouble having that standard of organic foods because the warehouse didn't have anything organic hardly ever.
Yeah, I think for families that want like some of the bulk organic stuff at a reasonable price would probably be like Costco.
Yeah,
Costco, Restaurant Depot, but you gotta have a little bit, or at least know how to get the thing. You have a business or something. But yeah, Costco, they have quite a bit of organic packages of like bulk organic things that are not as cheap as the old school produce spots, but that's cheaper than Kroger in the regular stores. And so that's an option. Definitely, particularly for vegetables, even more. But even they'll have like a whole bunch of organic apples that are reasonable that you can, as far as like a bunch of organic Fuji's or that kind of stuff. And so that's.
I would go to Costco too. I've only been there a couple of times. That might be something even for us if I run out of the options and try there too.
Yeah, something to check out. Like it's worth going and getting. I don't have a car. It was like when I was with people that would have the card, but I got a chance to see how that works because I don't have a membership myself and go there because it's further away than I want to drive up there all the time. But and by myself, I can get what I need different ways. But if I had family situation, I would definitely probably be going in that Costco direction because just the way that they sell their organic stuff is not bad.
I'm laughing at Brother Air's comment. Apparently that can happen inside the library too, Brother Air, in the West End Library. It's an inside joke. It's another story for it. I don't know. That might have to go.
Well, what's funny is we that just made me real. Me and him, we both have aggressive library stories. I have mine. But I was.
Oh, no, I don't know if I ever heard that.
I heard that one when I was. It was the main library downtown, and I was fat. It was like I'm like year 2 or something. I'm still new to the diet. But I'd been fasting for several days and I'm feeling good. And I walked down to the library and I think that's probably when I was living over on Milton Street. And then I walked down to the library and I'm just in a good mood, feel great. Like, man, and I'm really just, I'm fasting. I haven't eaten anything in a long time. I'm like, this is interesting. And so I'm at the library and I wanted to sit down to search for something at a computer and most of the computers are taken, but there was one that was open. So I sat down and I noticed that there was a purse that was off to the side, but it didn't look like it was like here at this computer. So I just sat down and started to work on it. And this girl came over, or a young woman or whatever, came over and a sister. And she just was like, I was sitting there and you just started going off on me. And I was like, I didn't know nothing was sitting there in the chair. And she just was going off. And then she reached over and started trying to press like to get out of my thing. And I like lost it. Like I got up, I jumped up out the chair and I hit her with my shoulder and she backed up and loud, super loud in this library. And I just yelled at her. I was like, what's your problem? You get off. So I went from like peace and love and feeling like I'm floating on air on this fast to like I'm about like that plus reaction came in. And I remember that was the first time that I ever did a mucus-free inspired insult. And I just looked at her. I was like, what's your problem? And then she was trying to act like whatever. And then, and I think I said something. I was like, yo, puss eating, cow eating, like something. I didn't cuss, but I was like, puss eater, cow puss eater. And she actually looked hurt. Like as much as she was all trying to be hard and be all mad and all this stuff, it was like that just totally just cut down her whole thing where she didn't know what I meant or what I said, but she knew that it was like, she knew that it had to be bad, but it was like, it was no cussing. She was just like, And then she just walked away. And then, but I remember, but then that anxiety that it brought up, like, cause then I'm shaking, like, then I'm trying to settle back down and sit down. But yeah, that's what I, was learning about that, how the mucus, as you're going through those early stages where that's why what's that?
No, I was going to say, are you old enough to remember the Incredible Hulk?
Yeah, yeah.
He said, Mr. McGee, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. It can be like that sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
I got some stuff inside of me.
Yeah, like, look, it's all peace, love, and breath. We don't mess with it. Like it's not good. And so that was a big learning lesson of how that works. Because you think that that all of us, I think, maybe looked at Vic at the standard of imperturbability.
Yeah, man. Because I still haven't met anybody like that, man. He just, no matter what, he'd be like, "Oh man, they just eat pus eaters. That's what they do."
Right. Yeah. That's.
My whiskey was on here listening. My wife she's upstairs.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, man. This is oh wow. But yeah, man, this has really been great. I'm really excited about the things how things are growing, man. And with the community of practitioners. This is really impressive to all you younger people out there, and to us 30s on down, or even 40s on down. To me, is the younger people. I'm really proud to practice a broader scale of more people practice it, and the camaraderie that's coming out of it. I think is something that's really great, and it's a foundation for the future.
Yeah, most definitely. And I still remember some of those, just the round table meetings and those discussions where we started putting these things into the ether, into place, where the plan, like, all right, we're gonna do this. We get out here and put the media out and the music and
yeah, man, you were like a young Marine. We figured there's not going to be another one of these to come around. It's going to take a long time. Like that kind of passion. But I see that a lot of the guys out there that have really plugged in with you in particular, and how they're really sticking to things and remaining rational and getting the benefit of not only you, all of us people who have been around a little longer too. And that's like how you started out the whole podcast about things being passed down. It's happening in that sense of the conversation. I see it happening now. I'm really happy about that. I think that's something that Eric would have been proud of too, because we're some of the few people, I don't know that people really know this, but everybody refers to Eric. A lot of raw foodists, a lot of the fruitarians, and they all. But somehow we're the ones that say, hey, wait a minute. His crowning achievement was the Mucusless Diet Healing System, to get people to he wrote about the idealism first. And as he grew and he healed more people, he said, you know what, long-term as a lifestyle, people need a transition diet to be able to walk through all of these stages this is how you get there. And all of the books were great in their own right. And they all fit together synergistically. Please, to all our brothers and sisters out there, don't leave out the transition diet part of Eric's legacy, because to me, it was his crowning achievement. It was like the inter work where he pulled it all together.
Yeah, I agree. Because there is a lot of people that come from the raw foodist side of the tracks that the first thing they'll read is rational fasting, and sometimes not read anything else. They'll get hip to rational fasting and then not read the Mucusless Diet Healing System. And if they do read the Mucusless Diet Healing System, it's almost as if they just ignore the transition diet lessons and the whole concept that brought it together. And from what it looked like in terms of the timing of his writings, when you look at rational fasting, and most of the articles in there were published first, earlier than it was like some years between that. And then when you listen to how he's talking in the Mucusless Diet, particularly in the transition diet sections, it's like he learned something from working with thousands more people in the sanitariums, like in those 5-10 years, from 1910 to 1922. Like he had really learned something and incorporated the transitional methodology. And like you said, I agree with that. That was the crowning achievement that brought the whole thing together, that really made it a sustainable, scientific, spiritual, whatever, that made it a real important thing, just a real important thing that is the missing link.
So now I'm sorry, go ahead, man.
I was just going to say missing link of humanity, because when you go through all of these historical traditions, whether it's Egyptian mystery schools or just pick a tradition, and the thing that's going to be the weakest will always be the physiological consciousness practices. It is always going to be something missing in it. Even if they have a little something, they might have a little fasting, a little don't drink milk, or don't eat cow, or don't eat pig, or they'll have
or do a vision quest, but then take a hallucinogen. You know what I mean? You fast, you might even dry fast for 4 days, but you take a hallucinogen.
Right. Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So it's just,
but yeah, man, I wanted to add another aspect that just came to me as you were saying that. Okay. So can we say this? Can we say that the Mucusless Diet Healing System gives you the ability to prophesy some things? Because there's been so many people we've seen over the years who just eat fruit, and then we go, oh boy, we're just waiting. And we're like, I say about 3 or 4 more years. And I've seen you do it on a video, man. There's a record of you saying it, say it like off the record. You say it on the record. So without calling anybody out in particular, let's just say a young man who was known for eating mangoes exclusively. Yeah. And then next thing you know, man, he's eating meat, he's eating that's so unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what happens when you just read parts of rational fasting, and then you're off to the races. You're a fruitarian. You're a fruitarian who the only other thing that you know besides that is alternating with fasting. Fasting and fruit diet, all fruit diet.
Right. And usually water fasting, usually.
And water fasting, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. That's why I say that the healing system was the crowning achievement, because he definitely was not in favor anymore of giving people water fast only and stuff. Especially the real sick people. He's nah, man, I found that this is better now. And so I think that we're the ones that upheld his part of his legacy that gets ignored. And that's the healing system, man. The transition diet and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's still, it never ceases to amaze me how hard it is for people to get to it, as much as it just seems so rational to us and like it would just be easy. It's not complicated. It doesn't take some master intellect to get it. But for some reason, there's blockages that prevent the average person from really, or even the above average person, seems like, to just be able to get it. And part of that sometimes might be some ego. There's all kinds of reasons, but you got to be, this path forces you to be humble. This diet is going to humble you. You are not on whatever level you think you're on. You're not.
Right. Right.
Like it's going to humble you. Get ready. And I think a lot of people don't like that. They don't want to be humbled. They want to be, they like that. It's like the perpetual pat on the back, and everything is just up when it's, and this ain't gonna end if you don't really have a real respect. Like we said earlier, people don't have a respect for the tools, for the juice, to have a real respect for fasting, a real respect for and to honor the opportunity to make juice, to live in an era where we have these machines where there is good and bad technology. It's how you use it. So we got technology. We got to be able to juice and to be able to, but because even if we didn't have that technology, we could still have the presses. We could still, I guess we'd have to juice the grapes with our feet back in the day. It would still be possible, but it had
stomping the grapes,
that whole thing. And so it could be done at any time in history, but this, I think, is a particularly good time for all this to really come to light, because even though, a lot of the quality of the food is bad and all the things that the people complain about with all the pesticides, all that stuff is not good, but you didn't know that until your consciousness rose up a little bit. And then all of a sudden people, they go from eating horrible diet to now they've gotten some benefits, eating fruits and vegetables, their consciousness raised a little bit. Now they feel as if they're entitled to fresh organic fruits and vegetables. And it's like, you didn't want that when you were eating Big Macs. Now all of a sudden you want it, because we would have that if there was more people with a consciousness that demanded that. It would be there. And there is more. It is starting to get a little more available depending on where you are in the country.
Oh man, compared to when I was growing up and when Brother Air was growing up, man, the grocery store was like iceberg lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, radishes. I guess people were really into radishes back in the day because that was a big part of things. But yeah, man, with Rational Fasting was a beautiful book. But if you could come up with a nickname for the Mucusless Diet Healing System, it could be Rational Eating. That's the rational eating side of things.
Yeah, yeah.
Until you start getting to the real fasting part where V equals P minus O and that philosophical part. Yeah, it's about being rational as well as artistic. It's the balance.
Yeah. And that's what I try to explain to people, like with your Brother Air, so they'll see him doing all the fast, all the stuff. And it's like, you got to study his life and his transition. The first 20 years of what he was actually doing in the eating realm that led to being able to fast like that. And then on top of all that, you add, like I used to call him Michael Jordan of the Mucusless diet practice, where he has some proclivities for this life. It's a fit. And so he has like excellence in this field of practice and study. It's for him. And so because usually people don't, for some reason, this fear, people will look at people eating things and they want to they see it. I can do that. I want to do that. But if you're standing there next to Michael Jordan on the court, you don't think you're going to beat him. So what? You just walked off the street. Okay, I'm going to go do one-on-one with Michael Jordan. It's like, no, like but he also worked real. People know his story of just his discipline of practice. That's a whole other discussion, all the problematic elements of the athletics and the athletes and stuff. But the thing that I take away from his story is he had natural ability, but nobody practiced harder than him or longer than him, because he'd get up in just hours before everybody's still sleeping. He's working on his free throw, whatever. Yeah, he's that type of energy, that type of bringing that type of practice where you really are taking the practice seriously, but that includes all aspects. So people think that, okay, if I'm fasting, then I can skip over a bunch of stuff, or it's like I can accelerate my progress. And it's like, I was just recommending to some people in this coaching call the other day that was asking if they should eat something, or because they're not really super hungry, but they're thinking, I'm like, look, you're real early on. Just get yourself on a schedule and eat. Right. You don't need to fast right now. Like, eat unless your body really forces you to fast. Eat and just get on that schedule, because you're eating to clean, eating for cleansing. You're breathing, you're cleansing, eat, cleanse, and go through the cleansing process. And it's just always interesting to me how hard it is for some people to really, it's like wrap. I don't know if they can't wrap their mind around it, or they can't wrap their ego around it, because you have to give it. There is this element of, you got to give yourself to the transition. You could give yourself to the diet and be humble about it. And that's when you have a lot of respect for it, and where you really understand that's where I see the difference of those of us that do it for a long time, that get that piece, and then some people that don't get that piece. And then that's where we can start to put our predictions in of the folks that aren't going to make it, because they don't get to that place of being humble and that kind of reverence for what they're doing. And they have a more adolescent type of mentality with it. And yeah,
I guess I'll open the can of worms with the mango cat. Sharon has a comment, and I think it's good. I have Mucusless Diet Healing System study playlist on my channel. And I put in some things that I don't agree with just for study purposes. But anyway, this young man, I think that, yeah, he definitely, as far as transition aspects, again, it gets brushed under the rug because even Dr. Morse he doesn't talk about that much. You know,
No.
I mean, he said we're frugivores and fruit and herbs. And so for certain times and periods of cleansing, especially like chronic illnesses and stuff, that might be good. That might, because it might be easier on you than doing a liquid fast, even not as quite as aggressive. But at the same time, I don't know that really knew about it.
I have some insider, like I know some behind the scenes stuff of dude. And,
Oh, okay.
and so I actually know, I won't even get into all of that, but I'll say that when I said about ego a minute ago, that's the discussion where it's like, just like you're saying there, because somebody does not have, manly muscles. And so we're going to go back to the Liver King lifestyle and thing. And, that gets on a whole thing.
That's a whole nother thing, man. I don't know if you've ever seen this clip of Dick Gregory. He said somebody had talked to him about a female's booty. He said, that's the garbage can, boy. In other words, how people look at stuff. This is really waste.
Yeah.
You know, not what you're thinking it is. The muscles, they're puffed up with something, but what is it full of? And so that's the thing, and where people get thrown off by this. Again, the media is the advertising, unscrupulous advertising, to make you think that there's something wrong with you if you don't aspire to look like this.
So Kara, so real quick. So there was a point where that person, he had copied and pasted, he had copied and pasted whole articles of mine and didn't link it to me and didn't quote me or link it to me. Like he would post it up like he wrote it. And I had to call him out on it, like in a private message, like, hey bro, like you literally just copied and pasted this from my website and put it up and didn't attribute. And I'm from academia. That's you don't plagiarize. Like you can use it. It's public knowledge. I put it out there publicly. So you don't have to get my permission, but I would appreciate don't post it like you wrote it, put my name there, put quotes in it, put a link to where you found it at. And, but that was a whole other thing with, there was a lot of content that went up on his thing that was like that, where people would think he wrote it, but he had copied and pasted it from all kinds of different sources. And so for a lot of folks that thought he was brilliant, nope, he's a good copy and paster. But
so he was the stuff she's referring to was your stuff.
Yeah, because there was a point where somebody asked where he was going through something, like somebody had specifically told he got a recommendation from me through somebody else that I were told him because he was going through something. It was like, look, man, you need everything you're doing is wrong. These long mango fasts and this long fruit stuff and it was just like, take a look at the transition diet methodology. But he's like so stuck in the raw food dogma and then the fruitarian dogma that he didn't want to really give that a shot. And so as a case study, like a lot of those people that do the 180, because that also shows you whenever somebody does that, whenever somebody goes from where they were eating mostly fruit and vegetables, but then they have the ability to go back to eating meat, whether it's cooked or raw or whatever, and the eggs and the butter and all this stuff these guys do, that's letting you know that they didn't do much work. They didn't do much they didn't change their physiology, because when you totally change your physiology permanently, the only way you would be able to do that is you would have to transition backward. You would have to literally use the same methodology to transition like in reverse. Or you would kill yourself doing that, eating those things. And
and you were trying to get him to transition backward, but not that far.
Oh yeah, no, it was right.
Transition back to some salad and maybe some steamed vegetables.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Steamed collard greens, steamed mustard greens, kale, was it baked acorn squash, baked zucchini, just the whole list of things that are beautiful transitional items that people they remove that from their tool chest. And instead, instead of eating cooked mucus-free, they eat mucus-forming raw. And so now they're overeating the nuts and the seeds and the nut pates and the multiple avocados and all this kind of stuff. And then you end up with Nikocado avocado. That's a great case study, because that dude used to eat. Another one. He was in the Morris camp and all that stuff way before he became one of the world's most famous gluttons. He was literally like in the Dr. Morris group, and this was like way years ago. And he had said that he would have a meal of 5 avocados. That was as a meal, nothing else, no salad, no, just eat 5 avocados. And then I've talked to other raw food folks, and it was like that was like something that was normal. Like some folks were doing that. And I was like, okay, that's not good. And he was complaining about something in this forum. And I think I even commented on that. I was like, hey, look, man, you really need to transition. Like, I understand you want to try to eat nothing but fruit and you want to do all this fasting and all this stuff, but you need to give yourself the permission to transition. And he didn't listen to me. And so now he makes millions of dollars stuffing his face with, the guy I'm talking about.
Is he still doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't.
I mean, it's amazing that you can live very long at all doing that, man. That is like abusing your body to the utmost. That Eric warns against that. He said that a glutton of any kind is you rolling the dice, man. Wow, I thought maybe by now he has tried to come back around to something a little healthier.
I think maybe in the past couple of months there's been some rumblings that he was trying to change something up, but we can check in on our buddy here. It was 2 months ago. So he's,
oh my gosh.
This type of, literally, this was a guy that was in the Dr. Morris camp that was in that.
I never knew he was in Morris's camp though, man.
Well, yeah, like he was on, so it was the original Dr. And Morris didn't know him or anything. Yeah, they had it wasn't like that. It was just, he was a member of the Facebook group, and it was into the whole raw food as dog from a dogmatic standpoint, like really trying to eat nothing but fruit. And so he would make some of those like annoying videos, like the annoying vegan videos, or like those ones that are judgmental and I'm better than everybody. And I had 6 avocados today, and it's just so peaceful, where this is a peaceful way to live. And if you're not living like this, then I feel sorry for you. Like, he was that guy. And then I don't know what happened. And he became this guy. Went from that and started going through some elimination, and he's making out with men over here. And this is it's like the generation personified. Like it's like a cartoon. He's like a cartoon character of debauchery and United States pus-based living. And that kind of
probably makes $100,000 a month or something.
Yeah, more even. I think more than that. He definitely makes a few million a year. I'm pretty sure, because he has that he's got a couple different channels. So there's this channel that has 3.7 million subscribers. I think he has another channel that also has millions of subscribers. And then he's monetized. He's got his merch going on. He's monetizing that. And so, yeah, it's just. But this is the kind of stuff in a pus and mucus based society and world. This is the entertainment that people like. This is what they like. They're like, oh yeah, let's see this guy stuff himself with flaming hot Cheeto, Taco Bell stuff, and boy, he's got all these. Anyway, yeah, yeah. But that's it. But that background is what people don't know. Dude literally was in a Dr. Morris, and I gave him an opportunity, because I didn't have to comment on his plea for help, as he's in there like, I don't feel good. I don't know why. I've been eating nothing but fruit, and then I've had my avocados, but I'm all raw. I don't know why I don't feel good. And when so many of the responses are just so not.
So he's a poster child for the transition diet.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like when transitioning goes wrong, when the transition is ignored, then this is
This could
definitely
happen. We're not saying it will definitely, but
but this is this is a possibility. You can definitely because here's what he even did a video comparing his vegan days versus now, and it was just a joke video, but you can see what he physiologically what he looked like. So this is literally him eating some avocado back what he looked like in his Dr. Morris avocado days. And then, not to tie Dr. Morris's name with him, but it's just for people to have a frame of reference. He was a fan. He was then that. So that was the transition. And of course, he's goofy. He's doing his entertainment.
This is like
an idiot.
Pee Wee Herman stuff, man.
Yeah.
I would have never heard of him if I hadn't seen him on a video that you did about it. I would have never heard of the guy, but that's amazing, man. But to all the children out there in the world, let this be a lesson to you. This is definitely a teachable moment.
Yeah, teachable moment. When your elders tell you to transition, you probably should listen. You should probably elders or just people that's a little further along than you. That is probably it might be the best wisdom that you could get. Is just if you don't take nothing else from the discussion, like transition. It's over.
I mean, in his case and the other guy's case, Mango Man, whatever. In both cases, man, the only way back is still through the transition diet, man. That's the only way back.
Yeah, it's the only way, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. That's like something that we said a lot over the years, even with just having periods of eating a little more mucus-forming foods. It's like you bump your head as many times as you need to. But after a while, this is not any good for me. You know what I mean? It's just, I know, and then so you travel further down the transitional path, man, because you bump your heads as many times and then it just, okay, this is silly now. It's hopefully he'll wake up, man, and because this isn't good for anybody, No,
and I think he was, if I recall, there was a period, I think, where he was, and no one knows what this guy, when he's just playing this character that he's created or if he's being serious, but I think he started talking in a way that was like kind of suicidal talking and this kind of stuff. And of course that got a lot of views and that got all kinds of people concerned about him. And it's from a marketing standpoint, it's beautiful. Yeah. You got a lot of views off of that. Oh, all of a sudden now the people come, the bleeding heart people. Oh, we feel so bad for you. Get you some help and this and that. And it's just like, nah, man, I ain't.
But even if you did that for views, man, that's a deep psychosis.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Yeah. That's a deep psychosis. And that's what people, I think they don't understand about people like us is that really this is an enemy culture. You have to make an enemy out of somebody. We see people who are trying to get themselves together and then we see children. That's it. We see little children who, might be bullies on the planet, might be just misguided, whatever. But we hoping it would be to our benefit that everybody get it together because then that'll be less people trying to push a button to some type of nuclear or something. It's like we want everybody to get it together, man.
That was one of the things that to me, when I came up with this realization, it was one of the most profound realizations that I ever had on this path, which was that I found something in the Mucusless Diet Healing System that is something that something that I want to give to my closest loved ones, and simultaneously I want to give it to my worst enemies, the people on this planet that wish to see me dead. I wish to see them with the Mucusless Diet Healing System, and my closest loved ones I want to see. So that let me know, and this was like the realest thing that I'd ever come into contact with. Because what else is there like that? Because people talk about that from a religious standpoint, there's a belief system that they're into, and they're like, oh, this is the salvation and the save. And so I had that experience with this information where, and I got an older video. I think it's not even on YouTube anymore. That was one of those that was like censored that I had to take down, but where I talked about, I had to work myself through those periods of wanting to, of work. It's like working the hatred out, the pus-based hatred, going through those periods.
It doesn't make us pacifists. You know what I mean? Well, I'm not saying that at all. But
Yeah, no.
just looking at things rationally, what could actually change the planet? Everybody getting it together on a mental, spiritual, in Egypt or Kemet, they say ma'at,
Right.
that ma'ati imbalance. That's the only thing that I could see that would help, man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. And don't get me wrong, there's a difference in somebody wanting to kill me and actually coming, and that's different. You coming at me. We have the Malcolm,
that's what I'm saying.
the Malcolm X principles are in play at that point, where it's we're not trying to give you a book at that point. It's
right
at all. It's a whole different ball game. But as long as you're just constipated over where you are amongst other constipated people, then you can be over there and be angry with us and hate us and all that. That's beautiful. Just, we hope you get it together one day. We hope you.
Yeah. Because the problem is, you say live and let live. There was an old James Bond movie. He said live and let die. That's also a possibility.
Yeah, that's the reality, really, of a lot of what we had to deal with, because folks aren't going to get it. And so that becomes the tragedy. As Aaron says, the tragedy of nutrition is not a tragedy of, oh, people aren't getting enough vitamins and nutrients. It's a tragedy that people are killing themselves and creating so much chaos and suffering on the planet that's based on what they're putting in their mouth, and they have zero clue. They're looking at everything else as they're eating some steak, looking around at like, why was there a school shooting? Why is all this rape? Why is there this genocide? And somebody got mad at me, I think, and they unsubscribed for my Instagram because they came on and made a comment on one of my posts, and they were like, why aren't you speaking about the genocide and the Gaza and Israel and use your platform to help people and this kind of stuff? And I was like, look, if you're the foundation of all evil, as I said in a past video, the foundation and source of all evil is pus and mucus eating. And if you aren't about doing everything in your power to remove that from your life and then help other people remove that from theirs, then I don't want to hear about worrying about the genocide of over here, because there's never not been genocide over the past, as far back as we have any kind of recorded history. There's never not been raping and pillaging, and there's never not been the torture and the domination and the enslavement and so on and so forth of other humans, but from pus eaters to pus eaters. That's been the tragedy that we're talking about, the tragedy of nutrition. If you want to be a real revolutionary, you want to actually do something that could potentially disarm and change things from the genocides and from the enslavements and the child trafficking and all of the horrible monstrosities that happen that humans do on this planet, this is the only way. Right, this is it.
And the nations who are pointed out for the greatest atrocities are also biggest perpetrators of the biggest consumers of those things that you're mentioning.
Right.
So whether you're talking about this nation or Europe or wherever, it is also tied to that. There's no way to get around that. And it ends up becoming like it's a discussion of, once again, as you clean yourself up, how do you begin to look? Then we can put the pieces together of who fell first on the planet, what nations or what groups of people fell first, by how the appearance and everything. And then you start to understand these are the nations that drop bombs on people. These are the nations who attack people in the night. These are the people, there's still no way around it, man. You're right.
It's always look at what they eat. What are they eating? We're going to start doing videos of that where we'll cover something pops up in the news as a school shooting, or there's a big massive bombing or something. And I'm going to do my coverage for our community. And my news show is, what were they eating? And because everybody else asked, what were they thinking? It's like, we know what they were thinking because we know what they were eating. The only question you need to ask in the midst of any tragedy is, what were they eating? then that's gonna tell you everything.
Yeah. Because even if you say it's the video games, what are the people who make the video games? What are they on, man?
Right.
Energy drinks and Hot Pockets, and what are they eating to even come up with such base material like that in the first place?
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto, they over here. The people making Grand Theft Auto are not doing enemas and eating pineapples and dates and that's it. There's a whole lot of White Castle and Big Macs and pizza and stuff that's sitting there. Hey, check this out, man. So I got this new idea. So so the prostitute, she gets in the car and the dude's just like that, and he starts honking the horn, and then they don't have fruit sitting over there. That's a pizza. That type of programming comes out of pizza and beer. I was like, hey, pass me that beer. All right, so so the dude is sitting there, and then the girl walks in and she said, hey, baby, what? It's like they put that in a game that kids play, and it's like, okay, we know where that's coming from. There's a new one coming, the Grand Theft Auto 6. I think they made the announcement that's going to be on its way. So but from what I'm seeing, it's woke. That's another thing. I think there's a female protagonist that's a strong female, so she can get in on the Grand Theft Autoing and that kind of thing. And so it's
women's rights.
Yeah, this is an interesting period in history because there's these overcorrections right now that's unfurling right now in society on different levels, and which get into all that because
we got Protector channel.
Yeah, exactly. Channel because it's so easy for us to just talk normal, and then we get censored. But all that stuff. But that's the observation of the death culture that we bring to the table in terms of just that observation. When you look at from all of the entertainment, the religions, the foods, whatever, there's always this death imagery, death rituals that are infused into the cultural elements. Like I said, you go to they don't have video stores anymore, but when they did, you go and there's a whole horror section. But like I said, where's the Fruitarian Immortal or the Breatharian Immortal section in your fantasy section? We're not saying you do, like you said, do that. We're saying that mythology should be used to create our entertainment. That type of, and this comes back with the kind of stuff we used to talk with Vic and stuff, but I'll look at, okay, where are our immortal characters that are in the popular culture? And you look at, say, like the Marvel characters, and there's a handful of there's different immortals or demigods that are somewhat immortal and live for several thousand years. And there's like these different levels of these entities. And they're all constructed out of like a pus-based consciousness. And there's,
you know what I mean?
Thor.
Years in your behavior, you know what I mean?
Right.
They're us.
Yeah. As opposed to if we had access and when we have access to the kind of resources to be able to create our own.
Yeah, the fable of the air eater.
Yeah, fable of the air eater, and to really establish our mythology, that shapes our paradigm, that shapes our culture in a way that not this bland Superman white guy flying around and then he gets in contact with a rock and he's weak, and those mythologies are so played out. I want the mythology of the beings that live on the purple planet that eat nothing but black grapes. Like, I want that stuff.
Chick could be the kryptonite or something.
Yeah.
Around this, he gets weak.
Yeah. He gets too close to a KFC and he's like, oh man, that kind of thing. Yeah. That's the direction that those entertainments, because like you said, we're not anti-fun. I want to make cartoons. Like, I want to make movies. I want all those things but to come from our culture, to come from our perspective that can really shape a mind in a positive way, in a way that lets them feel comfortable about being a part of a transition lifestyle, a transition diet, and to have an aspiration from a young age to start being able to think, expand one's mind critically or not, when you get older, you'll be more critical, but from the fantasy realm, because at a young age, a lot of children, we generally like that. That's why there is The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and all these different fantasies, never ending story. Right. I used to love that when I was growing up. Any of that's Wizard of Oz, Peter Pan, which is probably one of the most popular immortal characters from the Western culture, is Peter Pan. Never grows old, and he can fly around. And there was, when they talk about, like, they would eat, they ate imaginary food, but they really weren't eating. Right. They would imagine that they were eating this feast, but they're actually not eating anything. So those things are interesting, but we need more of that. There's one, you literally go through the whole thing, and there's one of those, and unless you go back into the stuff that was stolen from Egypt, all of the Greco-Roman religions and mythologies and all those guys, which are, by the time they was so degenerate, by the time those stories got that far. And so they lost a lot of whatever they would have had that really would have gave you a nice perspective on an immortal type of concept. It's gone by the time that we get it. And so, yeah, so that's something that we're definitely going to be working on in the future, to create our stories, create our entertainment. Yeah, is what Big used to say, like with Star Wars. Where's the black planet? Where's the planet of all black humans that eat nothing but fruit? Or the black immortal or breatharian planet? Or you could have planets for people at all stages of a transition. There could be a planet of those people. You had the planet of the baked squash people, like that survived mostly on baked squashes. And each one of those people would live for different lengths of time. Baked squash people going to pass before the fruitarian people on the fruitarian planet and the breatharian. But we can build that we build our universe and our kind of thing. And you imagine our children coming up with that, as opposed where they're watching that and we're telling them those stories, as opposed to White Princess and the Pea and Snow White, and so that. And again, and that's like basic, as we say, the Black consciousness community. That's just basic education that people still don't get. Just to understand like what Disney has done to us and to our children, the way that has infused so much societal programming that has just enslaved us. Whole other thing. But
I'm definitely excited, man. The future is looking bright. It's looking bright in the sense of all the things coming down. It's looking bright in the sense of us cleaning ourselves up to become more radiant and shiny in the literal sense. I mean, it is, no matter what travesties we talk about, it's a beautiful time to be alive. And when the pendulum swings, that's another comedic principle that they end up stealing and calling a hermetic principle. When they say that however far the pendulum swings to the right is how far it swings to the left. So if technology goes that far that way, then we'll just get better and better juice, more solar technology, more everything to balance it out. That's how nature works. It's good, man. It's good.
Yeah, most definitely. So yeah, man. Yeah. So one more time, give us your information. We got the back to life healing foods. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and you said you're going to be coming out with a YouTube channel soon.
I have one. I have a channel too. Yeah. I've got a video on there, but I've got, people might want to check out some music playlists and stuff like that. And I'm starting a Mucusless Diet study playlist on there too, just so people could find a lot of your videos and stuff to put the pieces together for themselves. So, but yeah, I've got a lot of content that I just have to upload to YouTube too. It's going to be a good year. I'm going to make sure that this July, August time period that I'm free, man. Are you doing Columbus again this year?
Yeah. This will be the last year. Should be the last year for Columbus. So we gonna be one more again up here.
Bless Columbus one more time.
Yeah.
I'll be there, man.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on here to the show, man. It's been wonderful plugging in, catching up, man. A lot of so much history, so much just wisdom, experiences that we've been able to just, like you said, touch on. There's a lot more to get on, but we'll leave them wanting more, and definitely have you back on here in the near future and keep the
Yeah, man, anytime. And thank you so much for having me. And I'm staying connected, man. We're always connected. Life has just been lifing for me the last 20 years with all of these children, but I'm gaining a new perspective for this phase of my life and a new way of focusing things. Good, man. I'm happy. I'm available for people who need another perspective on things. Hit me up anytime.
Yeah. Definitely take advantage of that. Y'all young people, listen up. Like what we were talking about earlier, plug in.
Yeah, because when it comes to having especially multiple children, even Brother Air, he'll be like, you got to talk to Khaleeq.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, man. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody out there that tuned in. We had some really great comments, some great discussions, some great questions, and I appreciate everybody that said that you really enjoyed the talk. And next week we got Takora coming on, so we'll talk with Takora. Yeah, we're gonna do that, and like we said, 2024 onward and upward, try to take things to the next level, and we say one bite at a time, one enema at a time. We change the world, change the bloodline. And so, yeah, man, so I appreciate you. Thank you all. Thank you. And until next time, peace, love, and breath.
Peace. We are mucus-free. 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 We are mucus-free.